Good Thursday evening to you, everyone. How are you? It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen by you. I, of course, am the one and only Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, coming to you live, loud and clear on a Thursday evening. We are almost to the end of the road for this week. We have had a fun one, haven't we? Well, the fun just doesn't stop happening around the Delver's Dungeon. Let me tell you that for free. So welcome one and all. And if you want to continue to be part of the fun, if you want to know when the fun is happening so that you can join in, do me a favor. If you haven't done this already, and odds are you probably have, but maybe you haven't yet, click the subscribe button and click the bell icon for notifications. It's super easy, and the best part is it's free. And I tell you what, we're running a special right now. That's right, we're running a special. I'm throwing in a like. You can click the thumbs up button for absolutely free. That's right. That's what a guy I am. So thank you everyone for stopping in tonight. We've got a good show for you tonight. We have a very special guest. He's been on here many times. He will be on here many more times in the future, but you never want to miss an appearance by him. Mr. Paul Stormberg is going to be coming out in a few minutes. That's right. Yes, I said that. Paul Stormberg, Paul D&D historian Stormberg, is going to be here in just a little bit, and we're going to talk to Paul about Dragon Days. We're going to talk to Paul about the Gygax Memorial, one of the many that he's got going on. Or we'll pick his brain for a little TSR history, and I should point out, after EggCon this past summer, I owe him a thrashing in Joust. So Paul and I will probably joust. So I'm looking forward to all of that. So hopefully Paul will be here. David Mills. I can attest to Paul's to Paul's choice of sartorial presentation tonight. But one thing I can tell you is, regardless of what he's wearing, he's gonna have it going on. So don't you worry. And if you're interested in that Kickstarter that is finna, I think as the kids say today, finna happen, there is a link. I just updated the description. Paul texted it to me and said, hey, do this, do that, do this, and check out the Kickstarter page. I'm not going to put that up. We're not going to visit that until such time as Paul arrives and he can tell us what exactly we're looking at. So anyway, yeah, Paul will join us in just a minute. Tonight's show is brought to you by me. That's right. I am the sole sponsor for tonight's show. And if you're interested in supporting the show by supporting our sponsors tonight, why don't you check out some of our merch? It is also linked in the description. We have a glorious t-shirt design by the one and only, at least as far as science is aware, Mr. Tracy Lesh. That is Mr. I created the Mind Flayer Lesh. That is Mr. I illustrated the first edition of Dungeon board game Lesh. Mr. Tracy, I illustrated the first edition of Boot Hill Lesh, and so much more. Guys, so much more. If you want to talk about a Renaissance man, that's Tracy. He did the design for the merch, and you should absolutely rock it. You know, not for promoting my show, but to wear a Lesh original around. That's what you should be doing, or to hang on your wall, or to have in a glass or a mug. So yeah, check out our merch, and you might also consider giving a look to Crumb. What is Crumb other than Conan's somewhat mercurial deity of choice? Well, Crumb is simply the last word in first edition Dungeons and Dragons character creation, because guys, if you've ever found yourself behind the DM screen or on the other side of the DM screen and you've had to make a character in a hurry, you know that, yeah, you can kind of throw together some basic stuff, but it won't be right. It won't run right as it will. You know, you'll kind of have to do the clipboard up. Let's just assume I have the gear I need, okay? And then maybe you'll, you know, maybe you'll work on it after the game. Maybe you'll forget to the next game or what have you. Or maybe you've got a ton of NPCs and keeping them organized is just a pain in the hinder. Maybe you've got a beloved character that you want to take from first level all the way through till they retire. Then, folks, Crom is the program for you. Crom allows you to generate a character using any of the 4 methods outlined in first edition. And it has a 5th method for manual input. So maybe you want to do 3d6 down the line. Maybe you use a point buy system. I don't know. I'm not here to judge your weird die rolling methods, but I did give you a door. Into being able to do that. And once your character has their stats, choose a race class combination. Do you have a human who could perhaps dual class? Well, you can dual class him. Do you have a human or half elf who could dual class into bard? It handles bards. Does your dungeon master allow the use of psionics at his table? It'll check for psionics for you if you have a human character, that is. Buy equipment, sell gems and jewelry, age your character, change your character stats, change your character's alignment, add increments of XP, jump them up whole levels, drain levels from those characters, save as HTML or as a text file. Guys, Crom does everything. It runs on Windows 8, 8.1, 10, and 11, 32 or 64-bit, and it runs under Linux through Wine. You got to know your way around Wine. That's what Crom can do for you guys. And it's only $25. 25 doll hairs. You can see the email address of mine, bsylvia@gmail, scrolling by down the bottom there. So if you are if you are interested, drop me an email and start your gaming life anew with Crom. We have created live on this show. We have used Crom to create a character. I mean, a complete character in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, guys. I don't just mean generate the stats, give them a name, give them a class. I mean everything from soup to nuts. Maybe you're like, well, Bill, I need a magic user. I need a bad guy magic user. Or I'm going to the game and the dungeon master wants me to run a magic user. What do I do about my spells? You're in luck. Crom will generate a spell book for any level magic user or illusionist. It does it all, guys. It does it all. And personally, I think it's a bargain at the price, but that's just me. So we're waiting on Paul at this point. My phone just dinged. Let's see if that's him. Okay. Bear with me just a second, guys. I got to unlock the green room door. Paul's outside in the rain. And we'll do this real quick. And I will tell him what the door code is. Me half a mo. Yep. All righty, so Paul will be with us in just a minute. Tomorrow night, folks, tomorrow night, if you weren't already aware, we're going to get rad, as in many rads, as in irradiated, because we are going to be playing some first edition Gamma World. Guys, don't miss, do not sleep on our Gamma World game. It's loads of fun. We can absolutely positively entertain you, I think, for 2 hours in the Wastelands. It's me, it's Doomsword, it's Yang Yan Zhao, it's Kevin, it's Kennick, it's Tim Imholt, it's Radioactive. Where do I find the guac merch? Artists create it for me, Joe. They do it out of the goodness of their hearts. And it's been Dungeon Minister Sky Hernstrom has created some art for guac. Hopefully we'll have Sky back as a featured guest this year. I will ask him. 13 in the chat. We have a comment. Well, there's some folks probably watching over on X. Let me ask you a favor. If you're over on X watching right now, give us a shout. Say hello. Say hello in the live chat and let us know. Yeah, I cleaned up the desk here, so I don't have the guac mimic computer, unfortunately, which sucks. But the image is tucked away somewhere on here. But yes, Dungeon Minister, his spring store does the merch for guac. We kind of have a thing going on. So while we are waiting on Paul, I want to remind you guys of something. We are 6 days away from the reveal of the 2025 holiday gift giveaway items. I should probably say item singular, since it is 4 of the same thing for 4 lucky people whose names will be put on the wheel. The wheel will be spun, and then those upon whose name the wheel lands will receive the item in question. And here's the thing. Maybe you're sitting out there wondering, how do I do that? How do I get my name on that wheel? Because I want to be part of that. Anytime between now and October 31st, join as a paid patron or as a paid YouTube member for as little as $1 a month. If thrift is your thing, join us over on Patreon. That's only $1 a month. If you don't care, you can also click over here. And you can join us on YouTube membership. But join us before anytime between now and October 31st, not November 1st. That's not like the math thing where the bracket is like that. It's a square bracket. And your name goes into the hat. You have to remain a member / patron through the end of December. So you can't join, I'm on, and then quit. No, you got to stay for at least a couple months. I'm going to stick you for anywhere from $2 to $3.98. But once done, your name will go up. When you see what I am going to be giving away next Wednesday, when we have the unveiling, you are going to want to do it. You're going to say, you know what? Yeah, for a couple of bucks to have that membership badge or that patronage for 2 months, I can do that. You are going to want it. Last Christmas, we gave away a Jack's Arcade mini Pac-Man machine, a new one, not one of my old ones. We gave away the Icons of the Realm Red Dragon, a lovely vintage Mobile Suit Gundam model kit, unassembled, of course, and the Dungeons and Dragons cookbook. This year, I've stepped it up a notch. It's not something ancillary related to gaming. It's not something that's just kind of cool. It is a gaming item. It is a TTRPG item. It is something that if you win it, you're going to look at every day, maybe even take down and play. You're going to be like, yeah, we're playing this. And then you're just, your mind is going to be blown when you think about it. It's not 3D printed miniatures. It's not 3D printed terrain. It's not 3D printed anything. All right. It is an actual TTRPG item. So one might even argue that it's 2 in 1, but I don't want to give any more potential hints. But if you really want to spoil the surprise, I'm looking at it right now. It's right behind you guys. You guys are looking at me. It's right behind you guys. Turn around and look behind you, and you'll see it if you really want the surprise spoiled. But I hope you don't. All right. I have blathered enough. I have talked and I have talked and I have talked. We have got a guy. He's waiting in the green room. He's getting into the schnapps and the baklava. So I got to bring him out here. I'm going to go ahead and put my headphones on so I can hear his dulcet tones. You know, people make a mistake sometimes when they have me places, when they talk to me, when they hype me up and say, oh, Bill Silva, he's a D&D historian. No, I'm not. My history of Dungeons and Dragons, I learned from watching the Saturday morning cartoon and reading the backs of sugar packets given out in restaurants in and around the Lake Geneva area. My guest tonight has forgotten more about Dungeons and Dragons, the history of TSR, and associated topics than I have ever known. Please let me welcome the incomparably superior human being and a good friend. Everybody say hello to the one, and as far as science is aware, only Mr. Paul Stormberg. Paul!
Hi, Bill.
Hello, how are you?
I see you have your DM screen up, so do I.
I do have my DM screen up, my friend.
And so do I. What do you do when two DMs both have their screens up at the same time?
Paul, all I can do is quote the song, when two tribes go to war, one is all that you can score.
I just roll initiative.
Just roll initiative. That's
all right,
it.
I'm moving my screen out of the way.
All right. That's a fine looking piece of metalwork over your left shoulder. There you go. RC Cola. Anyway, how the hell have you been, man? It's been a minute.
You know, I've probably been more stressed than I've ever been in my entire life.
Oh, so normal?
So normal.
The normal
this is
levels
an
of stress.
all new level of stress. So yeah. So but I've been great. Lots going on. Lots of really exciting stuff. My D&D group, I haven't prepared anything for them for weeks. So I've just been making stuff up the entire month.
Well,
I got them into a situation that I'm not sure that they can get out of, but currently they're in a world where the moon is fixed full and that they're in, which is surrounded by 100 werewolves. I thought it was cool, but I'm not sure how they're going to get out of it.
That is cool. You know what you could do is scatter around the tower pieces of a trifold parchment written, hear me out, written in strange characters that no one can really decipher unless, you know, they use unless they bring the pieces together and use a comprehend languages. And then you realize that it is some kind of menu for the rather confusingly named Liho Fuchs. And if they just throw that out to the werewolves, they'll leave. They'll go on a quest for it.
I did mention there was a big dish of beef chow mein sitting on one of the tables.
There you go. And these werewolves, is their hair perfect?
Yes, it glistens in the moonlight.
There you go.
But their 13th level archdruid is probably just going to whip out the chariot to stare and take off. So, well.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work.
But they, you know, werewolves aren't particularly tough for these guys. They're all like 12th, 13th level. So they're uber powerful dudes, right? And werewolves do 2 to 8 points of damage if they can bite you.
Yeah.
So I decided, how am I going to make werewolves challenging, Bill? 100 of them.
100. Exactly. You've got the sheer weight of numbers on your hand.
That's right. Eventually, somebody's going to get bitten. Well, so, but here's the bait and switch. They go, oh, werewolves, that'll be easy. They went into the monastery of the sun, where the day star orb has been removed, and thus the moon is stuck in the sky until the day star orb is returned to the tower, the ivory tower. So anyways, they go in and they run into their first werewolf, and they immediately prepare to just dispatch this thing in 1.2 melee rounds. When the guy in the back says, "That's Brother Raphael, don't kill him." And the party's like, oh my God, we have to save all these werewolves, not kill them.
There you go.
So 100 werewolves to save. Good luck trying to save them with a fireball. Not gonna work.
Yeah.
So the party said, leave it to you, Paul, to figure out a way how to make a massive werewolf slaughter no fun.
Someone was asking, do werewolf bites induce lycanthropy? Yes. If a werewolf, if any kind of were creature at all reduces you to half your hit points or lower, you will contract lycanthropy. And there's a bunch of stuff involving lycanthropy in AD&D, but essentially,
how many days do they have, Bill? How many days do they have to cast remove curse and cure disease? How many days? How many is it?
1 to 4. 1 to 4.
3 days, baby. And if it's not 3 days, then you're shit out of luck.
Hey, I was close. 3 is in 1 to 4.
It is definitely.
I'm taking half credit for that.
You bracketed it. I like it.
Yes. But anyway, that sounds particularly awesome. I like that. You have, of course, gone for the classic DM gambit of what to do. I'll improvise. So
now
I like it. I like it a lot.
I also included in this adventure will-o-wisps, and the will-o-wisps live in a series of copper mine shafts, and as the party tries to attack them, they fall into the mine shafts. And since the world's in eternal night with a full moon, it's hard to see anything in the forest floor, so they're falling into the mine shafts. And guess what's down in the mines, Bill? More will-o-wisps.
More will-o-wisps. Now, being completely honest, the will-o-wisps should be a TPK, even against a party that high level. There's very few spells that can affect the will-o-wisps, and the will-o-wisp can do that. But
the one spell they have, they've got a 12th level magic user, and he can cast, I don't know, 6 magic missiles with each. What do they? Yeah, 6 magic missiles with each casting, and so he can hurt them pretty badly. But they are a really tough creature. And the best part is there's only one of them who's fallen down the mine shaft. And so it's that one person against the will-o-wisps down there. So they have to decide to jump down there and save them. There's so many will-o-wisp bills. Do you know what treasure type Z gives you? It gives you everything.
Everything.
It just tons of it. And so since I decided that there were going to be 21 will-o-wisps living in these mines, I multiplied the treasure. Man, it is a load of treasure down there. But it is really dangerous.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the party is at such a level, though, even training themselves, they're gonna burn through most of it just to try and level up, assuming there's enough to level up with.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think the druid bemoaned that he needed 1 million experience points to become the great, to become a great druid, or grand druid. No, great druid, right? Great druid.
The great druid. Are you doing the Highlander thing? Are you sending younger druids after him to challenge him periodically?
He had one challenge, and then he got offered a deal that he could be a personal assistant to the great druid as an arch druid. And so he kind of skipped. He had one battle to become druid, but then when he was approaching arch druid, he basically cut in with the grand druid, sorry, and the grand druid gave him a job as one of his agents. And so he skipped the whole process of challenging other than to become a druid in the first place. So yes, I do use the system. Oh, and by the way, there's an adventure in White Dwarf magazine 27 or so, which is called the Druid's Grove, which it's a whole grove laid out with all sorts of different plants and bushes and thorns and paths and valleys and rocks, everything that you need for a druid battle. And it's kind of like a druid box canyon gladiatorial death match setup. And it's designed for two druids to go after each other and challenge each other. And I ran that using that. And let me tell you, that was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Excellent, man. I have somewhere, I have an ISO image of like the 25th anniversary of White Dwarf, they released like the first 100 issues in PDF form on a CD-ROM.
That's great.
And that was out there for like 5 minutes before they realized, wait, this is just loaded up with TSR's IP. We can't do this. I mean, I don't think it was actually ever really on sale. And by the way, anyone out there who's interested in some D&D history from across the pond, I do recommend you go out and you seek out the PDFs and the ISO of that CD-ROM because one, it's unobtainium. Two, the issues are pretty much unobtainium. And three, Screw Games Workshop. But yeah, there was some interesting. There was also a lot of bad stuff, and most of it wound up in Fiend Folio. But we can have that discussion another time. I am
Albie Fiore.
I do too. I am of the mindset that if you are leafing through Fiend Folio and you find something that's really cool, it was from the TSR US offices. If you go through the index, it shows you who created which monsters. And
come on, Bill. Slod and Yankee. Come on, they're the coolest. They're the coolest astral monsters in existence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much stuff that's just literally like cut and pasted out of Doctor Who. You know?
Yeah, let's make a goblin, but he has a square head. Ooh, incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a good book. I'm sorry. I'm put me down in the hater column. It's not a good book. It's good content is from TSR US writers. It's bad content is from 12-year-olds who sent their monster ideas into White Dwarf magazine and the guys at White Dwarf were like, yeah, let's publish that.
Well, I have a funny story for you, Bill.
All right.
So, my friend Kevin Hendricks, who used to work at TSR, he did Remember the Alamo. He was the editor on Secret of Bone Hill, you know, and he was in the development department. But he had a series of submissions, and he would have to go through the submissions in a huge stack of these letters that he kept, the best letters that ever came into TSR. And they're all stamped red, March 3rd, 1980, red, March 3rd, 1980. So they're all marked. So an example of one was two kids who said, hey, you TSR people, sirs, we found some lead in our alleyway, and we were wondering if we sent it to you, would you make some miniatures out of it and discount the miniatures for us because we provided the lead? So he had to respond to that letter. But one of the letters, a girl, probably a sixth grader or fifth or sixth grader, sent in the zebra corn. Now, the zebra corn is a cross between a zebra and a unicorn. Its horn does D100 damage to anybody it stabs. Its movement rate is 1,000 feet per minute. And it just goes on. He has I think he is 100 hit die. The zebra corn is 100 hit die, 100% resistant to magic. Number appearing 1 to 1,000. Enough. One is enough to destroy the Tarask, but these babies, they come in 1 to 1,000. Huge packs must destroy the entire planet. So here's the funny story. So I love this letter. I auctioned off all those letters and things for Kevin years ago, but Kevin is a really avid painter, miniature painter. And he's always putting something together for his next convention game. So sure enough, he puts on Facebook a couple days ago this zebra corn. This is zebra with a unicorn. It's a unicorn with the stripes of a zebra. And so I said, are we the only people on the planet who know the true power of the zebra corn? Because only he had read that letter and only I had read that letter. And he had completely forgotten that the zebra corn was a submission back at TSR. So I posted it under his picture of the zebra, his miniature of the zebra corn. And therefore, that little girl, sixth grade girl's dreams came true, and the zebra corn was finally published somewhere.
The zebra corn lives, absolutely. And you know, that's if she'd only sent it into White Dwarf, it probably would have made it actually into Fiend Folio.
Indeed, it would.
If she'd sent it. No, I gotta ask you this because I don't. I'll forget, and it keeps it keeps attracting the eye. Why Black Jay? Why? What is going on with your screen name?
Well, you know who Black Jay is, right? From the Village of Hamlet, the grizzled herdsman.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
The last time I was on, I was Ostler Gundagut, which is the innkeeper. So I'm just going to rotate through all of the names of the Village of Hamlet villagers. So, but
that's fine.
Think about Black Jay. Black Jay has got to be the coolest character in that book. The grizzled herdsman with his dogs, doesn't want to be bothered by anybody, has an elven cloak and boots and a magic arrows hidden in a trunk in his place. And he lost his wife during the war for the Temple of Elemental Evil while he was off fighting and is a widower. I mean, what a great, just, you know, that's like 3 sentences in the Village of Hamlet. Yeah. And my characters just like, my players always thought, and I thought when I ran through it, was this dude's a badass. What is his story? Why is he yelling at us? Nobody else in Hamlet is yelling at us. This guy's yelling at us, and his dogs are trying to bite us.
He's basically Batman.
He's Jeremiah Johnson, dude.
Jeremiah Johnson. Well, that's cool. All right. Yeah, it was, but I'm like, I know the name Black Jay. Why? so now I know. Now I know. So what else is happening, man? What is it's, gaming sounds like it's good. You said you were stressed. What is the stress? Unburden yourself, my friend. We're all friends.
So,
There's you got an audience of literally tens of people.
Tens of people. I love that. That's
Tens
more
of
than
people.
I typically have at my dinner table, Bill.
Yeah.
So the big news is that Dragon Days is coming up on October 4th and 5th. This is our second year for Dragon Days in Lake Geneva. We did it as sort of a festival as part of the Gygax Memorial Fund to celebrate Gary's kind of greater legacy, not just Dungeons and Dragons, but of creating Gen Con in Lake Geneva, writing and publishing Dungeons and Dragons in Lake Geneva, but also publishing over 300 short stories, fantasy and science fiction stories through Dragon Magazine and later Amazing Magazine, and publishing over 360 fantasy and science fiction novels. And so, there's not a lot of towns in the world that have created that sort of content, if you know what I mean, right?
Right.
And so, while there are probably millions of people who've played the 100+ games that came out of TSR, there's tens of millions of people who play D&D, but there are literally hundreds of millions of people who've also read the fantasy fiction that came out of this little town. I mean, George R.R. Martin, R.A. Salvatore, Sprague de Camp, Fritz Leiber, all of those guys wanted to be part of that scene and were invited by Gary to be guests of honor at Gen Con in 1976. And there's just this real push for stuff for fantasy fiction because that's what Gary wanted to be. I mean, he didn't want to be the guy who created D&D because there was no D&D. There was nothing like it, right? And there's lots of war games out there. But Gary wanted to be a fantasy fiction author. He wanted to be a writer. And so Gary really pushed that. And at one point in 1982, Gary is sitting in an office with his two fellow presidents, Brian Bloom and Kevin Bloom. And Harold Johnson is there and has brought to them this idea from Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman to have a novel based on the modules that they were creating for Dragonlance. And it came down to Brian and Kevin, and Brian especially, looking at Gary and going, well, Gary, you're the fiction guy. What do you want to do? And Gary said, let's do it. And that was the beginning of over 1,000 novels published by TSR, and then they were continued by Wizards of the Coast, and now they're continued to this day by Hasbro, and they're well over 1,000 different novels out there. So this festival celebrates Lake Geneva as the birthplace of fantasy for a lot of people, whether it's board games, Dungeons and Dragons, Gen Con, role-playing games, other games, or fantasy fiction. It all came out of this little tiny town of about 4,000 people when Gary did it. And now it's kind of swept over the whole world.
Per capita, if you had said this started in New York City, this started in Chicago, this started in Hollywood, this started even in Dallas or Atlanta or Miami, you go, all right, that tracks. But I mean, this is literally like going into an antique store in Hokes Bluff, Alabama, and finding a Babe Ruth baseball card. Is Gary coming out of Lake Geneva to change the face of entertainment, you know.
Yep.
So
the festival last year was our first official year. We had a test year before that just to get all the kinks out. Last year we had over 900 adults and 800 children. So this was a major family event. And then there were another 900 walk-ups. So in our first year, we had 2,700, 2,800 people in attendance. It's a citywide festival that includes all the areas that kind of support Gary's legacy. The park, where he used to look off across the lake and being a novelist. The library, where he'd get his books for historical research and check out new fiction or science fiction or fantasy books. We have the Wizard of Lake Geneva exhibit at the museum. People can go there with their wristband. They can go visit the birthplace of D&D, 330 Center Street. Sit in the area where Gary used to sit when he ran games in the dining room. Sit in his office in front of a typewriter, just like the one he typed D&D. And then we give them a tour and watch a short video about the history of the house. But that's the birthplace of D&D. Anybody who has played a game wants to have a connection to the creation of this thing. You know, that's kind of the place to go. And then in the park, we have a giant fantasy festival, like a Renaissance festival, but we have a hay bale dungeon maze where the kids can go on a D&D adventure. There's little cards they flip over as they go through the dungeon, and there's obstacles and riddles that they have to solve to get each of the four corners of the dungeon to find gold and gems and that sort of thing. We have a group. There's the hay bale dungeon maze. You can see it there. I'm in midst construction right there.
yes,
but we also have a new LARP group who has joined us called Deep Light, and they are going to run our Adventurers Proving Ground, where you get to go and find out what kind of character class you are by participating in a series of D&D themed carnival games. Once you get through that, you go into the Adventurers Guild and you get your certificate, your character sheet saying you're a first level, whichever class or whichever type of D&D character you qualify for based on the Proving Grounds. And on the back of that is a city-wide quest called the Dragon's Curse this year. And the Dragon's Curse takes you to every location for the festival around the city, and you follow clues and try to find hidden Easter eggs around the city, and try to solve all of the riddles and questions on your questing scroll, and then you get back to the Adventurers Guild. A number of stamps. We have little character sheets for everybody to use while they're at the festival. And on the back of the character sheets is a little dungeon map of the entire city of Lake Geneva. Yeah. So there's there's the dungeon map of the city of Lake Geneva. Yeah. And on the other side is their character sheet. And down below here, they get stamps. And for each site they visit, they get 100 XP. So we have a stamp that's red and it says 100 XP on it. So once they fill this up with XP, they can take it into our ye old magic shop and trade XP for magic items, magic wands, foam swords, jeweled rings, jewels, gold coins, silver coins, copper coins. And we have a little list of they can pick from to choose their prizes from the event. And so it's kind of like a parish festival, a Dave and Buster's, an amazing pizza machine, a Pizza Planet, any of those sort of places where you get tickets, you play games, you get stamps, or you get tickets, take them to a prize counter and you cash them in. So the idea is to get everybody to go on a big adventure through the city of Lake Geneva.
Wow. Well, that sounds like an absolute blast, dude. That sounds like a ton of fun. And that now I was slow scrolling through some of the stuff there, guys, but I want to go back up to the pertinent information. If you're gonna be in Lake Geneva at this time, or if you're looking for something to do and you want to do it, it's dragondays.org. It is October 4th through the 5th. That's right over there. That's coming up right on
no,
us.
Bill. It's right here, and it's weighing down on me.
Oh, but Paul, you got this. Now let me engage in a little bit of mutual appreciation society here, guys. Paul has got this all in one sock, man. Trust me. Every time this guy is like, yeah, this is beating me down, I'm not going to be able to. It's like you just pull off like the most ridiculous wins, dude, and it's fantastic. But I'll put the URL, as they call it, the URL in the chat, so you guys can head up there. And
so we'll have gaming at Horticultural Hall. Like where they have the old Gen Cons at. They'll be running D&D demo games for people who've never played, but there'll also be chainmail and other role-playing games that are being run that anybody can sign up or show up and play. Your Dragon Days wristband gets you in there for free, gets you into the museum for free, gets you into 330 Center Street. The Geneva Theater will be showing Saturday morning cartoons and the D&D movie. And the Fantasy Festival will have, I think we have almost 70 merchants this year. I don't know, Bill, do you remember the library park there west of the library? It's a long park. It's like 3/4 of a mile long. Our festival is filling half of that entire area with medieval tents and performers and crafts, and we've got a blacksmith, we have an archer, we just have an amazing assortment of medieval professions and crafts and artisans, jewelry makers. It's great. It's like walking into medieval village. We have our enchanted bazaar for shopping, and then we have our village. So yeah, and it's a really exciting place to be during the festival.
Well, that is great, man. That is once again, as I have said in previous years, I wish I could go. I wish I could be there, dude. This looks like just a whole lot of fun. And just the stories you've told me, both you've mentioned here on the show, and things that you and I have talked about, just chit-chatting here and there. You've created in a very short order, you've created a pretty cool phenomena, because it was kind of strange to me. The first time I ever went to Lake Geneva was, I guess, in 2005. It's for the second or third, probably the second LGDC.
2005, I think, was the first. 2006 was the second.
So 2006, and
I think that's when we were in that room in the Cove together, that one sunny room at the end, which I think it was the same room when we were at EggCon just a couple months ago.
I don't recall us being up in that room when I was there in 2006, but that was also 20 years ago. So,
well, we were either in that room or we're in the basement room below that. So
we were in the map room. I think we were down in the map room, in the basement, as you say. And when I got there, and I had interviewed Gary, but the audio interview wasn't out there. I was doing my own little thing on my website, not really as immersed as I am now in the things I've learned from you about the history and all. But I was like, I remember saying to Colleen, because when we checked in, we got a couple of drinks at the refreshment area up on the first / second floor. If you know the layout of the Cove, folks, you know what I mean by that, of the hotel. And there was a lovely young lady there, and she was like, "So what brings you guys up here?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, we're at the gaming convention." And I made mention of the fact that I was like, "Yeah, this is you know, this is Gary." And she said, "Oh, that's right. Yeah, he does live here, doesn't he?" I was dumbstruck by the fact that here's a Lake Geneva resident who didn't know that the father of Dungeons and Dragons lived right there in town. I mean, she knew TTRPGs, but
Sure.
you know, I was surprised by the lack of anything D&D related in the town. I was even joking with Colleen. We went into Mrs. the Dungeon Delver. We went into a used bookstore somewhere up near the main drag, and there was one D&D book. It was like a novelization from the I don't know, the Dark Sun setting or something. I was like, you know, I was like, well, we're in Lake Geneva. There's a Dungeons and Dragons book. I guess it's, you know, it's complete. But you know, and what you've been doing, what you've been promoting it. I mean, to think now that association is being made, and that you're cementing that association, that is really really excellent. And to kind of continue on with that, and I mean, you're my guest. I am your humble host. Do you want to talk about the Gygax Memorial Fund game table?
Sure. So, so just what you said about people kind of knowing that Gary lived there and kind of knowing he created D&D there. When Gary's widow, Gail, initially approached the city about a memorial, they did not want a memorial to Gary. They didn't want a memorial to Gary. As a matter of fact, they almost made a policy to say, we don't want any memorial to ever be established in Lake Geneva, and we're going to pass an ordinance about banning any future memorials. That was the first obstacle that she had to overcome to get a memorial established to Gary. And then it took a long time for them to finally, in 2012, give her some land, but it was in a park, I kid you not, Bill, named Donian Wetland Reserve. Does that sound like a place where you could build something?
No, I saw kids splashing around and playing in it when we were having our farewell drinks in Lake Geneva. It is not. It's not where you'd put a statue. It is a creek. It is a creek bed.
So of course I wasn't part of the Gygax Memorial Fund back then. I don't realize all of the struggles that Gail had to go through. But in March of last year, we finally got full approval. We got granted a piece of land, full approval to build a memorial, and the city accepted the donation on behalf of the city government. And one of the votes, one of the original board members from the original board that Gail first went against happened to be there that night, and was and had been put in kind of as an interim a city council member. And he said at one point, everybody was so excited by the time we had done all of our initiatives, had the Gygax Memorial Fund put the section in the library, the Appendix N alcove. We got Gary Gygax Day proclaimed. We had the Dragon Days Festival, and 2,800 people showed up for it. All this positivity around everything that we had done. We even got the Wizard of Lake Geneva exhibit in the local museum about Gary's life in D&D. And even after all of that, a lot of the city council members eventually kind of came around. One of them commented, you're right. If chess was created in Lake Geneva, we'd have a park in the shape of a chessboard with 10-foot tall chess pieces on it. She realized, after 10,000 miles on my truck and me going up there month after month after month, getting on the front page of the newspaper, telling him about Gary's accomplishments, how he did it all in Lake Geneva. He didn't move to Chicago. He didn't move to Minneapolis. He did it all in Lake Geneva. And so they all kind of came around. But here's this old guy from the first city council meeting when she had originally approached them. And he saw everybody voting yes to approve the memorial finally. And he looked confused. And he was looking around confused. And I was like, oh no, this isn't going to go well when it gets to him. And it gets to him. And he goes, well, I guess I'll vote yes. But I thought the reason we weren't going to do this is because there would be all the pot smoking and drugs going on. That was his whole perspective of D&D. All the pot smoking and drugs.
All the pot smoking and drugs. Wow.
And so, but think about that. There was a whole group of those people against Gail when she first started. So it was a long road to hoe. We finally got through it. Gail had raised about $15,000 from gamers by 2013. 1.5. That's it. 15,000. Because there was no land. We hadn't even been granted land to build the thing. And we only had a basic design. There wasn't really a design yet. And then at that point, a very wealthy donor stepped in, said, I'll give you $175,000. So that was great. They were elated. It was so fantastic. But in 2014, Gail started undergoing liver failure. She had tuberculosis when she was a child growing up in Kentucky, and they never treated it, and she survived it. But it damaged her liver, and she started having problems and was hospitalized for a solid month, Bill. She's in the hospital for 1 month. And nice. She was virtually moribund for a year after that event. She was being considered for a liver transplant. Well, as you can imagine, she was kind of worn out by the fight against the city and her illness. And, the project just lagged. She did not want to build this memorial in a wetland. There's just no way. And so she kept trying to get it where Gary wanted. And she and Gary discussed this. Gary wanted the memorial in Library Park, where he used to skip school, smoke cigarettes, read comic books and amazing stories and fantastic stories and read all of his pulp fiction and fantasy novels. That's where he wanted this thing. But Gail could not convince the city because that is the jewel of the entire city, Bill. That park is the jewel of the city. That's where all the millionaire homes look off across the lake, is that park. And so she really had a big mountain to climb. But she eventually, in 2019, she decided she was just too worn out. So she's asked me to become the vice president. I came on board. I redesigned the memorial to be what you see on the screen there.
Right.
Basically a stone table with Gary sitting on a bronze throne, his hand down at the table, gesturing to a map, which is the first level of Greyhawk Castle.
And it still should have been the Caves of Chaos. I'm going to die on that hill.
Well, the good thing about this is this map is scaled for miniatures. It's the first map he ever created for D&D. And so his hand points down to the table so the game master can sit right next to him at the table and roll his dice off of Gary's hands. So Gary will actually help the game master run his game. And the game master will sit right next to him. A lot of people have said you should put something on the other end, but we have left the other end open. You see a small sidewalk there? We've left it open and accessible because we want it to be accessible for people in wheelchairs or walkers or other people who need special accommodations. And so that is open on that end for accessibility. So our theme is that everybody has a seat at the table for this memorial. So, unfortunately, in just before I came on, this big donor who had donated $175,000, it looked grim. Gail could not get the city to budge on the park. They would not give her Library Park. And so he requested to withdraw his pledge because he didn't think the memorial would ever be built. So in 2022, we returned $150,000 of his donation to him and thanked him for leaving what he had left with us. And we're hopeful that he would rejoin us. Then it took me another 2 years essentially, with all of our initiatives, doing all of those projects, being on the paper every day of the week. And we finally convinced the city of non-gamers who didn't want a statue to Gary to give us the jewel of Lake Geneva as the place to put Gary's memorial table. And so now, obviously we don't have that huge $175,000. And we have spent a lot of money. It's been 16 years. We've spent about $4,000 a year on attorneys and legal fees and T-shirts and travel to conventions and advertising and advertisements and just all sorts of things. So we're pretty low on funds. And if we want to make this table a reality and make this a place for people to pilgrimage to the birthplace of D&D, to gather around Gary at this table and play a game of D&D with him, because the map will be scaled for miniatures. And so we're going to need to raise at least $150,000 to build the stone elements. And we've decided that we're going to do a crowdfunding and do a Kickstarter, because we want the entire D&D community to know about this special place and to be invested in it, so that generations of gamers will come to the spot, sit around Gary, and play a game of D&D with him.
Man, Paul, this is pretty phenomenal, dude. And I you know, you and I, again, we talk about this. You and I shoot the shit about this when we get caught up on the phone and what have you. And when you're here on the show, I'm never not excited about this. And I particularly like the accessibility, because by the time I'm able to afford to go to Lake Geneva, I will need the walker or the wheelchair access. So that is particularly nice. Now, I do. There was something mentioned, and I apologize if I can't recall this properly. Was there? Did you tell me something about a slot for dropping dice in or something like that?
Well, so, you know, this whole statue is really a lot bigger than what the initial idea was. Okay. And obviously, when I brought this idea to one of our sculptors, he's like a nationally recognized sculptor, and he did the he was selected to be the sculptor for the Desert Storm Memorial on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. So this guy is highly, highly sought after. And he wrote me a letter back after I sent this proposal to him. And he said, Paul, I get probably 9,000 commissions a year. And I turn down all of them because it has to be a really special project for me to want to be involved with it. And he said, this design is beyond any monument I've ever seen because it's interactive. You are gathering around the subject of the statue. You're sitting there for a long time. You're not just walking around it and glancing at it. You're sitting there. You're using the map on the table. You're rolling dice off of Gary's hand. And it's incredibly engaging. And he thinks it's just a brilliant, brilliant design. And he was excited to get a chance to be a part of it. So the idea is that with $150,000, well, and as you can imagine, having one of the top sculptors in the world, it's going to cost a lot of money. I kind of looked up some sort of different monuments out there. There's a monument for the Vietnam Memorial for female nurses in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And it's basically a bronze rock with two nurses helping a wounded soldier, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's about the size of 3 people. This monument's a lot bigger, right? That cost $3 million. Well, that's how much money they raised for it, was like $3.5 million. Now, because ours has stone elements in it, it's not as expensive, but it's still going to cost a lot. And this is the breakdown. The Kickstarter is supposed to raise $150,000. That lets us get all of the stone elements in place. We're going to sell pavers at certain levels, granite pavers at certain levels at $250 as an example. You can get a 4-inch by 8-inch granite paver and have your name engraved on it as a warrior of Gygax. If you go up to the next level, you get a 4x12 brick, a longer brick, and you can write something else like, you know, the South Florida Hellfire Club or whatever your D&D group may be called. And so as you get closer to Gary's statue, the donation level goes up until the ones that are right next to the throne, right at the base of the throne, those are $10,000 donation bricks. Now, all of those stone elements we can put in for the $150,000. But then, and so as soon as we can get that done, that'll be in. People can play at the table. But then we have a stretch goal of just about, I think it's about 100,000 more. I don't have it in front of me right now, but for another 100,000, we can put this D&D throne there. For another 100,000, we can put the statue of Gary there. And for another couple 100,000, we can put a dragon wrapped around the base of the throne guarding a treasure chest. And the treasure chest was kind of an idea that was floated where through the lock mechanism or through some secret place on the chest, gamers could deposit a D20 into the statue as sort of a tribute to Gary.
Okay.
How's that for a long-winded story to get to that little simple thing?
It was a long but fun trip. I enjoyed that. I just there's been so much water passed under the drawbridge about this to see it finally taking shape. And I'm not one of those guys. I don't have my own vinyl wallet embossed with my initials that I keep lottery tickets and scratchies and stuff in. But if I do play a big lottery, I won't tell anyone, but there will be signs. So Paul, if you get a pledge for the largest type of paver on this, And the inscription is Greyhawk rules, Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms suck. It's I'm just saying it might be somebody you know who made that donation.
Well, so the good part about this Kickstarter, Bill, is that we understand that there's a lot of very young players of Dungeons and Dragons. And our most important thing is to try to connect the generations of players from the very young to the old. And, obviously the older players are going to have more money and they're going to be able to donate and maybe get a brick, or maybe their game group will put in money together. My own group has put together about $500 so they can get a $500 brick, which I think is a hero of Gygax brick. And
nice.
And so that's a way where, multiple people can get together and get one brick. Like game groups are the perfect organization for this. Everybody pitch in $50 and we can get a brick with our game group's name on it. And we've had a few requests for, like, a man came into 330 Center Street and basically told us, you don't know how important this is to me. My big brother taught me to play D&D and he just died last month and he would have loved to be here. And he wants to get a brick with his brother's name on it and put it in the memorial. So there's a lot of emotional connections. There's a lot of things that groups can do to participate in this. But Bill, the lowest pledge is $5. So there's $5, there's $10, there's $25. And so we're hoping that we get a groundswell of young kids who have played this game and go, this game's meant a lot to me. I have a lot of friends. It got me through COVID by playing remotely. I think I'm going to become a fantasy writer. I'd like to be a game designer. I use this in my computer and my game design, my computer game design. I'm writing more now. Whatever it might be that inspires them or creates friendships or relationships or even saves people's lives. When I put this up the other day, a kid said, I was so beaten by my old man. The only escape I had were my books.
Wow.
And, this game really connected with people. It saved people's lives, isolated and alone in little communities by themselves, isolated from peer groups. This game saved a lot of people's lives. So I really think that people are just going to pour into this because they are thankful for what this game has given them.
Well, I have so little to add, although I will point out, in case any of you guys asked, the $5 pledge, I believe they write your name in grease pencil on the underside of the bench. That is what your $5 gets you.
Actually, this is what you get, Bill. You get your wall, you get your name on the Gygaxian Wall of Honor on our website as a first level adventure.
And there you go.
You get the scroll of honor saying that Bill Sylvie is a first level adventurer of Gygax. And you can print that off and mount it on your wall of your game room to show your street cred. And then you get my mini mega dungeon that I've created in the grand tradition of Gary's Greyhawk Castle, Castle Greystern. You get the lands and the ruins. And then at second level, at $10, you get the land, the ruins, and dungeon level 1, Warrens of the Rat King. And it goes on until you can get all 18 levels of the dungeon. As you go through the levels, as you get up in levels, you become a higher and higher level donor, but you also become a higher and higher level adventurer. First, second, third, fourth, fifth level adventure. Then you become a warrior, a hero, a champion, a lord, and then eventually you can even become a dragon lord. All depending on how much you give to this memorial. Now, the good thing about this memorial, Bill, is it is a charitable donation to a nonprofit. So whatever you donate, other than what comes out of it for the Kickstarter fee, the remainder is tax deductible. in most situations. Please consult your tax consultant.
Yes, yes.
But
well,
because we're a nonprofit, we're a charitable organization, it's a tax deductible donation.
That brings me to an interesting question, and I had intended to star this, and I want to be even-handed about this. Someone had mentioned early on in the chat. I want to find it. I don't want anyone to think that
I have faith in you, Bill.
Not. Okay. It is misplaced, Paul.
Have them retype it. Retype it. Stand and deliver on a second time.
I'm not gonna miss this. Come on. Where is it?
Well, I'll tell a story while you're working, Bill.
Do that while I scroll and try and find this, which I should have starred.
I have called myself Black Jay for this particular call, but did you know that there are a lot of anagrams and Easter egg names in the village of Hamlet? For example, we have the thin, dithering monk named Taruko. That is named after Terry Kuntz. And his big, hulking, dumb, strong fighter companion, Cobort, is Robert K. Rob Kuntz. And then, of course, over at the Trader, we have Melabnira, the pawn shop operator. That is no other than penny pinching Brian Bloom. Then we have the Traders, and note the intonation of traders. The Traders over there are oh my gosh. Give me their names. Rano Stavel, and the other guy's name is Gremag, right?
Yes.
Gremag is Dave McGarry, the treasurer at TSR, who, when Arneson sued the company, came back to the company, and they had to give him access to the books so he could look over their numbers in front of their faces. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Rano Stavel is none other than Dave L. Arneson, the fat and exceedingly evil trader. And by trader, I think Gary meant traitor.
Yes.
Interesting, eh, Bill?
Interesting.
Okay, my story's done. Did you find it?
I did. I did find it. So timing. This great timing. This comes from John D, and I think this leads in a little bit to your talk about tax-based stuff. But John D, just so you know, I apologize for not starring your question, but I think this is the perfect time for it. John D says, what's stopping the fund from just sitting on the money for years and accomplishing nothing? Has it already happened? So Paul, take it away.
That's a great question. Charitable organizations are limited in the forms of money-making investments that they can do with their money. It becomes very complicated, and also donors can put conditions on their donations that limit their usage. So we really didn't have a lot of flexibility with the largest portion of the money. We just couldn't do it. And, we're not the greatest legal minds. We have attorneys we consult, but we don't have like a $1 million tax attorney to tell us how we can make $1 million off of our $1 million. So, and to be quite honest, this fund is pretty much being run by 3 people. Okay. And, I'm doing 99% of the work. So yeah, that would have been great. There's a lot of things that would have been great to do for this whole thing, but we can't go back now. But we have this amazing opportunity to go forward. We don't have any money left. We spent about $4,000 a year on attorneys, legal fees, tax preparation, travel to conventions, making up packets to deliver to city council so they can read over stuff. I mean, just on and on and on. You know, we paid a sculptor like $10,000 to come and consult, and he had a terrible design. So we didn't use it, but we lost $10,000. And so, you know, if in a perfect world, yes, everything would be great. But here we are. I was given this, you know, I was invited into this, and I inherited all the problems with this memorial. I can tell you this. There's been no skullduggery. There's been no mistreatment of funds. We've been managed by a professional accounting firm for the last 16 years. We are in good standing with the state of Wisconsin, doing an annual report. You can go out and look up all the stuff online. We only have to do a profit loss statement every year, which we also post on our site. But we put our entire tax return up there. Even Donald Trump won't put his entire tax return up there. And he's the most honest person in the world. But the Gygax Memorial Fund, all of our tax records are up there. And you can go and see every dime we've spent and every dime we've taken in. So people saying that there's not transparency, you should have done this, you should have done that. You know, here we are. We spent about $4,000 a year, which is pretty low for a nonprofit organization. If you have a lawyer do anything, it's $4,000. So we have you know, basically we've got just a couple $1,000s in the bank after spending whatever 4 times 16,000 is. But that's pretty much what we've done. But if we hadn't spent that money, Bill, there'd be no memorial. There'd be no site for the memorial. There'd be no chance for the memorial to ever be built. So we spent that money to convince the city of Lake Geneva, who didn't want a memorial in Lake Geneva, to build a memorial to the guy who created the game that changed the world.
All right. Well, John D., I hope that answered your question. If you have any other ones, John, please,
yeah,
keep the chat going. You know, blow us up over here. It's you know, it's a live chat. I'm taking y'all's in. Paul, we're all ears, which makes for really weird physiology in me, I can tell you that. But anyway, so I just went blank for a second there. I would all right, so
I'll tell you another story.
I got my feedback from under me. Save your story for just a second.
No story.
But no, we're gonna hear the story. But when the hell are you going to give me the measurements for the doors, Paul? I need the measurements for the doors, Paul. You need to tell me what they are, Paul.
Problem is, Bill, is the Temple of Elemental Evil is in deep storage. You know the scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark? That's my storage facility for all my Dragon Day stuff, all my Gary Con stuff, all my Collector Strove stuff.
Top
and
men.
We at one point I had 4 10x10 storage units. I put my arm around my son and I said, "Son, one day all of this will be yours." He said, "We should just drive it to the dump."
So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this is a 2-part story. So Paul and I are going to do the Simon and Garfunkel here, and I'll hand the I'll hand the song off to him when we get to the appropriate point. 3 years ago, Paul approached me about doing fixtures for the model of, well, no, it was before then, because you had asked me, you and Doug had asked me to do the 15mm models for Quasqueton Dungeon. And I did doors, the pools, and a piece of sculpture that's an Easter egg. If you guys see Paul's Quasqueton Dungeon, find the Easter egg and tell me here what it is, and I will figure out what a prize, what should be the prize. So if you know what I'm talking about, first person to say in the chat or to come back ever watching this video, leave a comment. I'll figure out some kind of fun prize. So anyway, then Paul comes to me and he's like, well, hey, we're doing this. Will you do this? And I said, sure. And this involved 30 arched windows, 40 some pillars. And there's a pillar in the Easter egg too, which I don't think anyone ever got the pillar Easter egg. The 4 huge giant pillars and 158 roof spikes.
With skulls.
158 roof spikes with skulls. And sets of working doors inside. And finally, a glorious entry door. Now, here's the thing about that entry door. Paul and Doug were very patient with me, waiting for all of these fixtures that I just rattled off to get printed. I finally got it done a month or two, no, not even that long, before the Gary Con where this is going to premiere. I pack it up, I ship it off, and I detail out what's there. A couple of weeks go by. Paul comes back. What about these doors? And I'm like, you've got these doors. And he's like, no, this door. And I was like, son of a bitch. So I fire up the printer. I knock out the door. I'm like, okay, guys, what are the specs on that door? Let's just be sure. What are the specs on the door? Paul, you told me, Doug told me. I made the doors to that specification, and we are coming down to the wire. We are coming down to the wire. I call up the Grand Geneva. Can I overnight something to you guys? USPS. Will you get it in time? Absolutely, sir. It'll go to our shipping department. I pack it in. I ship it off. I call up there. Yes, we will get it. Don't worry, Mr. Sylvie. Your person will get this. Friday rolls around. I call up there. We don't have that package. But don't worry, we'll send someone to the post office on Monday to pick it up. That's not
oh my God.
That's not going to work. And at this point, I mean, I'm 2,100 miles away from Lake Geneva. What can I possibly affect? Paul, pick it up from there.
I don't remember, Bill.
Oh my God. All right. So here's the deal. Paul has the Temple of Elemental Evil model and just like a garage door opening on the front of it at this point.
Yeah.
So I call up there.
What I say, Bill, is I don't remember how they got into my hands eventually. But eventually they did get into my hands.
Well,
and so that they were beautiful. They were the best bronze doors I had ever seen. They looked amazing. It's just that the doors fit in the opening, but the frame of the doors didn't fit in the opening. It was just a wee bit too big. So what we did was we took off your super cool brass doors and we swung them out to the sides. So it looked like the door was, that the door had been swung open like that. So they stood
Thrust
there
open,
on either side of the giant opening. They looked amazing. Nobody had any idea that they weren't supposed to be that way.
Right. And you know what the funny thing was, the archway, the hinges, everything like that is supposed to be glued together. So the doors will still swing, but they won't fall out and the piece won't fall apart. And I thought to myself, Paul might want to have a dramatic part where he can slip the archway off and have the doors flung down. Thank God, because then you wouldn't have had the doors at all, because there would have been no way to put that up there. But I go full Karen. I call Friday afternoon. I call up to the Grand Geneva and I'm like, literally, I was calm. I was collected. Paul, am I ever not calm and collected?
Oh, you were a little hot that day.
So I call up to the front desk and I'm like, hey, I want to talk to your boss's boss. Never asked to speak to a manager. They'll just go get somebody who makes 75 cents more an hour than they do. So I said, I want to talk to your boss's boss. Okay, can you tell me what's going on? And I calmly explained to her, and I said, that's the situation. I'm perturbed, and I want to make sure that that my perturbation gets escalated, that this is somehow addressed in some fashion, some form of redress for Mr. Stormberg, because I'm in Florida. I can't get any help from you guys. So I want you to do something for Paul. So Paul is waiting on the doors. She scuttles off somewhere into the depths of the, now I shouldn't say that like she was not being helpful. She was being extremely helpful. She goes off somewhere and finds the box with the doors. They'd been sitting there since Thursday. They'd gotten them and they just put them on a shelf somewhere, like fucking nerd shit, and, you know, set it away. And so, and they call Paul. Paul's in the middle of his game. I'm sending somebody. And somebody goes down there and they're like, well, we can't give this to you. Mr. Stormberg has to come and get this. It's addressed to him. So at some point you got the doors and then open them up and, oh, they're too big. So yes, that's
they looked amazing, and they were very photogenic for the battle scene. So it was great. Zugat Moy standing between the two open doors, casting as a giant mushroom. And you know what I used for Zugat Moy? I used Errol Otis's Myconid King miniature that you printed for me. That was my Zugat Moy. Looked amazing.
Now, what? Okay,
did you?
I know I
that one for me. I thought I gave you the STL and you printed it for me.
Yeah. Somehow I got the STL. I got one to Errol, and I feel like I gave you one and I gave Errol one.
You gave me two, and I gave the one to Errol. As he was leaving the Grand Hotel to catch his flight, I go, oh, I've got something for me. Glad to see you. And I handed him the Myconid King, and he said, man, that is wicked cool. And he loved it. He very carefully opened up his bag and carefully packed it in his luggage, and off he went. And the next year, he said, I have that Myconid sitting on my shelf. So a little bit of Bill Sylvie there, residing in the palace of JOUUUUUUST. There's another name.
Yes, JOUUUUUUST, the famous and degenerate drow artist, JOUUUUUUST.
Matter of fact, when we were doing a write-up for the Draw a Dragons contest that we're having at Dragon Days, and I put as an example of the artist's name, I put JOUUUUUUST. The depraved drow artist. So, Bill, did you just say drow?
I said drow. I never say dro, because that's not the proper way to say it.
Well, you're from the South. You're from the South. I'd expect that.
Alan Canning.
You probably say soda too.
No, I say Coca-Cola.
You know, I met a guy from he was from Tennessee somewhere, but he said, let's go get a dope cola. I said, a what? He said Dopa-Cola. I was like, I'm pretty sure we get drug tested every week. I don't think we can have a Dopa-Cola. So I was wondering if you had ever heard anybody refer to a Dopa-Cola.
I can honestly say that must be a very regional Tennessee thing, because I've never heard that. But Alan Canning has a question for Paul.
Yes.
How did you create the Greyhawk questions for the Earth Journal prior to asking Gygax in the interview?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, you know, I had been reading through things, and I read through the Village of Hamlet, and there wasn't a lot of clues in there. But then I was reading through the Temple of Elemental Evil, and some things started to stick out. Like, for example, the shapes of the different elements in the Temple of Elemental Evil happened to match the shapes that the adventurers find in Loth's lair, in the Fane, in her lair underneath, in the plant egg. There's those 4 shapes. Well, they're the exact same shapes as the 4 elemental nodes. And the whole dungeon talks about the keys, right? And when the adventure is published, the keys become these different colored gems. But then there's a place in there that says that describes a symbol on the wall, and it describes it as an eye symbol, as an eye of fire symbol. And it says it's a triangle. It's a triangle with circumscribing a letter Y, or there's a letter Y in the middle of the triangle that goes to each of the vertices. And I realized at that point, wait a minute, that's the symbol of the Elder Elemental God from G3. And so then I went to G3 and I started realizing that there was a connection between the Elder Elemental God symbol, the Eye of Fire symbol, which Gary said when he told Tramp about the Eye of Fire, he said, draw an Eye of Fire. At some point, Gary had showed Tramp that an Eye of Fire symbol was that Y inside of a triangle. But apparently, when Dave was drawing, he thought it would just be wicked cool to make it actually an eye with the upper lid of flame. So it became a literal Eye of Fire, not a symbolic Eye of Fire.
Right. So
basically, me digging into all of those sorts of details of the modules, and just my simple question about, they talk about the rain of colorless fire, right? That's pretty self-explanatory, right? Fire raining from the sky, invisible, right? But I said, what was the invoked devastation? And Gary said, well, it was just an unmaking of things, a catastrophic unmaking of the world. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. But that's sort of the thing that when you read Gary's words, and he puts all these little Easter eggs and all this little meaning here, there, and everywhere. And a lot of times it's either connected to his person or it's meant to be part of some sort of underlying theme or I'd say, a storyline or a mythology or an idea that he had. So you've got this whole concept of the different shapes, the different elements, and it's tied to it. And, Gary said, well, you uncovered a dark secret. It's really not supposed to be an eyeball with a fire coming out of it. It's supposed to be a triangle, and that's the Elder Elemental God. So he was the God that was supposed to be accessible through a secret level of the Temple of Elemental Evil. So how I came up with those questions, I could start to see those underlying design elements that had been abandoned for whatever reason. And I tried to connect it back to Gary's original design. And that's when I discovered the demon web pits from his original Q1 were actually the nodes. Those nodes are the demon web pits. And the 4th level of the Temple of Elemental Evil, if you note, it's rough. It's kind of an oblong shape, and there is a hourglass shape to the south, and the main temple has eight legs or halls running off of it to each of the elemental pits. That drawing was the original demon web. Right there. That was the main event on the demon web, where players would encounter Loth, and she would throw them into the demon web pits, which were the elemental forces that she had used. The 4 shapes, which are tied elements, she used those 4 elements to create it. That's why she has those 4 elements in D3. That's it. So, anyways, I don't know. I'm an archaeologist. I'm picking stuff up and figuring it out.
It shows, and I thank God, because we wouldn't have this otherwise. I mean, it would be.
I hope that answered his question.
I hope it did too, Alan. If you have any more, Alan is always there with the bangers. So please, Alan, go ahead and.
Man, that was a great thing too, because Gary really riffed on all that stuff and gave us his write-up for Dorga Torgu.
Well, you know, one thing that I think a lot of people miss when they play Q1 is, I mean, even if you play it at face value, even if you ignore the ties to the Temple of Elemental Evil, the Elder Elemental God, the Lovecraftian overtones of the of, I almost said the deep ones of the oh, thank you, Alan, thank you for the super sticker, of the Kutoa, is, and I know you and I have talked about this offline. I don't know that I mentioned it to the audience. I feel like I have, but this may be the first time you and I discuss this together on camera. You don't kill Loth at the end of Q1. You can destroy her form, and here's why. The spider ship where you face her is through a passage in a node. She is not in the demon web when she's destroyed. That means if you fight her and destroy her, she's destroyed on the prime material plane. All it does is banish her back to the demon web and scatter you out to wherever the DM elects that you wind up. A munificent DM
my philosophy on the demon web is that everything, you know, when you use a talisman of lawfulness, it opens up a fissure and you to whatever proverbial hell. I basically say that anything that's disposed that way ends up falling into the abyss. And you fall all the way through the maelstrom that the abyss that surrounds the abyss. But when you get 22nd level, you're caught in Loth's demon web. So I kind of visualize it as the net that catches all of the discarded junk and banished creatures and all sorts of stuff like that.
So there you go. Again, some great Stormbergian our archaeology. Paul has spoken. So what else? So, you know, I've got to ask you this, Paul, even if it's not at the time. But will you be jousting at Dragon Days?
No, but I plan to eventually. I need more help. I can't, unfortunately, you know, the last year I was running tours at 330 Center Street. I ran 288 people through tours over 2 days through that house. There was a Disney World line going from Gary's front door down the sidewalk and all the way down Wisconsin Street, almost to Horticultural Hall, waiting to get into the birthplace of D&D.
That's fantastic.
So
what we have
in any event, what happened in the middle of one of those tours was I got called and said, Paul, you need to come down to the park. The police are shutting down the Archer. And at that point I realized, oh, I'm the co-chairman of this festival. I can't be given tours. I got to be there to meet the police when they arrest our Robin of Sherwood Archer for firing an arrow in the park where projectiles are prohibited.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown. That is absolutely Pythonian, though. You know, the idea, it's like some guy in his getup getting clapped in handcuffs.
Yeah, it's just like the end of
the end of Holy Grail.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. He hacks down the historian, and then they're being all hauled off in a paddy wagon at the end.
Yes. So there is a question
Yes.
from Gonzalo.
Happy.
Do you know any secret history or background for the cult of the Black Flame?
No.
There you go, Gonzalo. Asked and answered.
Wait, what adventure is it from? I need
yeah. So give us a little more.
Too much context switching. I need some context. Oh
well. Now one thing that one fun Paul story you got to tell because
talking the Black Flame from WG5 Mordenkainen's Fantastic Adventure. I don't know. Anyways.
Greyhawk, not an adventure. I'm not sure. That sounds like a Thara's Doom thing.
It's probably after my time. If it's second edition, I'm not very hip on second edition stuff. So From the Ashes, I'm not so good at.
The Hool Marshes. Let me see. All right. You know what? Hey, hang on a second. I
apologize. I mean, I am familiar with Hool Marshes, and the Hoolmen that live there, but I'm not familiar with Black Flame. I know that Baltrin's Beacon is set there by a lot of people. No, I guess I don't know. Sorry to disappoint. Oh, there, Paul's career is over. This guy doesn't know anything about Greyhawk.
Yeah. You know, that's one of those things that can be so frustrating when I'm trying to do AD&D stuff on the fly. It's like, oh yeah, what's the lead? You know, I know it's Owen the Third is the Duke of Jeff, but you know, it's like, oh, what's the leader of Jeff? The party is entering Jeff. Who's the?
You don't call it Jeff. You can't call it Jeff. You can't call it Jeff.
I Google it up, and it's like formerly Duke Owen. What?
No, it's Jeff. Because if you say Jeff, it sounds like let's go to the kingdom of Bob. And then we'll go to the Duchy of Greg.
Well, it's probably named after Jeff Perrin anyway.
The Grand Duchy of Jeff.
You know, it's probably named after Jeff Perrin. But anyway, so
it is definitely named after. But you know how Gary writes. You know how Gary writes GAOL to refer to a person who keeps a jail. And he refers to them as a GAOLER. And I was so disappointed to find out that that's just jailer. I mean, come on, Gowler. Yeah, I like that. He's a Gowler. Okay, that sounds cool. Nope, sorry. It's just pronounced jailer. Well, why did you spell it that way?
When Mrs. the Dungeon Delver was playing D&D with us, the party went to the yeomanry, and I insisted on calling it the yeomanry. Oh, that drove her up the wall. She's like, it's yeomanry, and I was like, yeomanry. That's probably how Gary pronounced it.
So Gary created a little haunted house board game for his children to play, and you would draw cards to see what spooky thing happened. And you would have to roll dice to see if you stayed in the haunted house or you ran. And then you would go a random number of spaces and be stuck in some other scary situation, right? But one of the cards, he wanted to say there's a draft, right? But Gary knew that the English spelling of draft of beer was DRAUGHT, draft.
Yes.
And so Gary wrote it as DRAUGHTH. And when his daughters informed him that is not the way you spell draft, every time they pulled that car, they would all laugh, and Gary would go, look, and make make a drinking sound rather than a draft sound.
That's great. That
So
is
there you go.
fantastic. But yeah, no, it's God bless the people who've done a lot of extra input into World of Greyhawk. But man, when I just want to know something out of the box set, I'm like, okay, who is the leader of such and such? Well, it's this person. Well, that doesn't sound right. And then I go leafing through the box set. That's not right at all. Okay, what are your sources? Carl Sargent's From the Ashes, or, you know, the Greyhawk Gazetteer that came out in 2000, 2001. But, you know, it just kind of went, it kind of went off on its own thing. One thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I think this is I love this, is I don't have the link anymore. I'd have to try and find it on the web archive. Is someone asked on the official Paizo forums before they parted ways in a serious way from Wizards of the Coast about more Greyhawk material, and people politely dogpiled the person saying, oh, no, see, Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms vastly more popular. People don't really want more Greyhawk. And then the lady who had been like the product manager for the Greyhawk line for years. I'm sorry?
I think it was Lisa Stevens at the time.
Yes, it was Lisa Stevens. Lisa Stevens chimes in and she's like, she actually to the guy. She was like, yeah, the sales of Greyhawk kept even pace with Forgotten Realms. There was never any Forgotten Realms berries Greyhawk, and it's just Greyhawk is left in the dust. Greyhawk was always it wasn't like Forgotten Realms came along and then squashed Greyhawk. Forgotten Realms came along and got as popular as Greyhawk, but people were still clamoring for Greyhawk material, which is why TSR, after they got done flipping the middle finger to Gary for a few adventures, they did their thing. So they kept on putting out Greyhawk material, which I think is wonderful. But I was going somewhere with that, but I don't remember. Paul, over to you. Hey, I know what I was going to ask you.
I got a story for you, Bill.
Tell me another story, Paul.
You know, I was being interviewed by a documentary crew once, and they said, Paul, you have said that reminds me of a great story about 400 times today. All the stories are great. They're all great stories. That's why I'm telling them.
Alan was asking, have the TSR buildings and hobby stores been there? No, they're still there.
Yes.
The hobby stores and all are still there.
But the original TSR Dungeon Hobby Shop, the original TSR building, is no longer the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum. It is now a cheese shop, which is appropriate for D&D, or at least Monty Python fans.
Yes, blessed are the cheesemakers.
Mm-hmm. Why are they killing each other? Well, they told it to love everybody. Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah. What have the Romans ever done for us? Well, they built roads. I mean, aside from the roads, and they gave us a closed sewage system. Well, aside from just running water. This huge laundry list of, okay, other than these 25 things, what have they done for us? Good times. Paul's running away from home. Oh. What have you got there?
Oh, my son was looking for a measuring device, so I grabbed a tape measure to throw to him.
Okay. All right.
How about a tape measure?
Like a ruler?
A ruler. One moment.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Ace. Wheeze.
Thank you, sir.
Buddy.
So you've got Dragon Days coming up. Then I hope you're wintering for the holidays. I hope you're not going to try and run all over God's creation at least till spring rolls around. Yeah.
No, but you know, I did go out to San Diego to see my daughter, and we saw Canyonlands, Bryce Canyon, Arches National Park. Came back, saw the Grand Canyon, but then, Bill, we went to Monument Valley, and let me tell you, after seeing the Grand Canyon, Canyonlands, Bryce Canyon, all that beauty and magnificent, none of them were as stirring and as striking as Monument Valley. When we came into Monument Valley is where they shot all the John Wayne Westerns.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you see somebody riding across a desert-like environment with a big butte or mesa sticking up and it's bright orange and the sage is green and the sky is azure blue, that's Monument Valley. Let me tell you, driving into that valley, it's all flat, but then there's just these massive stone figures. We came when it was foggy and there was like low clouds. It looked like giants who had knelt down and had bowed their heads to sleep all through the valley. It was, I don't know, it was spooky, it was moving, it was chilling, it was amazing. Yeah, just really striking. My wife said, you know, it's like Stonehenge, but made on a God level scale. And I was like, you are correct. That is terrific. So, yeah, if you have a chance to go to Monument Valley, this person highly recommends it. This adventure highly recommends it.
I would not hate that. I tell you, I got out to St. Helens back in 1994. So, I mean, when I was that age, 1980 and 1994 seemed like an epoch apart. Now I realize like 14 years is nothing. So there we are. It's 1994. We're driving up basically alongside St. Helens, and it is to quote I think it was Neil Armstrong, possibly Buzz Aldrin. No, it was Buzz Aldrin who said he referred to when he looked out on the lunar landscape as magnificent devastation or desolation. Magnificent desolation.
Yeah.
That's how it was up there, because it was late October, so it was starting to get good and cold. It was cloudy. We were up in a mountainous area, so you know, clouds. So it was very misty. It was two colors. It was verdant green and steel grayish silver.
Wow.
Was how everything looked. And there were still stands of trees, very easy to identify stands of trees just blown down at 90-degree angles, still visible. Just an amazing sight. But of course that was 30 years ago. Probably fairly overgrown now, but give St. Helens
what a time to be able to see that sort of stark landscape, because it's gone now.
It really is. It's healed up quite a bit. All right, Kabuki, if you have to split, namaste, my friend. Hope to see you around.
Yes.
So you got Dragon Days, you got the holidays, and then you just start the whole circus over again. And
I got to get ready for GaryCon. If we can get this Kickstarter to fund, my thought is we'll get this thing shipped to Wisconsin. We're using Barry granite from Vermont, and we're going to have this thing shipped in by rail across the country to Watertown, Wisconsin. And then I think we should put that block of stone on a flatbed, park it in the lot at the Grand Geneva, and let all of the gamers autograph it before it is cut into the table.
I think GaryCon is the weekend of March 23rd.
I believe so. It's usually the third weekend in March. It
Yeah.
used to jump around, but now it's pretty steady.
Yeah. So Paul, I'm going to put you on the spot here on the show. Weekend of April 9th, the Guac 5. Or is it 6 now? No, it's Guac 5. Paul, what does a fella have to do to get you to come and run some games, some virtual games at Guac? Can I put you down as a definite maybe, my friend?
You can put me down as definite maybe. My technical abilities are limited. This is about my technical abilities for running a game. So,
well, trust me, we can. We'll help you out, man. We'll.
What do you want me to run? What should I run?
Oh, I don't know. How about
I could run my Ghost Tower of Inverness tournament I just ran, where Alan Hammock and I rewrote the tournament, as you know.
and a certain someone got an unexpected cameo at your table at EggCon, but
it was great. That was a fun group. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I gotta so there's when I was up at EggCon, I shared a room with Alan Hammock, and if you guys have seen Alan on before, I'm going to have Alan on again real soon. A great guy, TSR veteran, edited the World of Greyhawk sets. So I jokingly say to Paul, as we're playing the Ghost Tower, the expanded, extended, original Ghost Tower, we get stuck on a damn puzzle. And I jokingly say to Paul, hey, can I call a lifeline? Because I've got to, and Paul just looks at me and says, do it. Call him. And I was like, haha, okay. And he's like, no, call him.
I want to talk to Alan.
So I call Alan. He couldn't hear us because he was having dinner.
And that ruined the whole thing.
Well, no, because he stopped. Here we are, like 45 minutes later. Alan comes in, and my back is to the door of the game room. He walks in, and I just hear Alan in his faux stentorian voice, "How dare you!"
I was eating supper.
I was eating supper. So yes, but yeah, no, I think. What do you say, audience? You want Paul to come and run the Ghost Tower game? It'll be on Discord.
I could run a level of Greyhawk Castle.
Oh, do that. Okay,
no,
all right.
I mean from the original manuscript. Right?
No, I know what you mean. If you do that, then I'm in. I'm into whatever game that you're going to run, guys. Okay, Paul, I'm pulling you in. I'm putting you down. I'm writing it in ink in my book. I'm like
Greyhawk Castle adventure for 8th level patriarchs and warlocks and.
Yes, I'm like Feeney in The Quiet Man. I'm putting it down in the book.
All right,
putting it down. All right, draw a line to it.
Well, you gotta lick your pencil like that.
All right, it's done. It's dusted, guys. Paul's going to be assuming it doesn't step on anything real world you've got going on. Paul,
taxes.
Castle Greyhawk. Taxes. Oh, fiddlesticks, taxes. You can take a few hours off to run. You know what? I think I know the answer to this, but Paul, you have such better storytelling, Joss, than I do. So I'm gonna put this up there and let you answer because it's another banger from Alan Canning. Do you know if minis were more than just eye candy from the beginning? Did they factor in any of the gameplay for TSR products, Paul?
Interesting, you should say that. So, when Gary first was playing war games in 1968. And had the first Gen Con. A guy brought a game called Siege Bodenberg, and it had these imported German plastic figures of medieval figures, knights, Normans, Vikings, that sort of thing. And Gary really fell in love with them. They were pre-painted and they're beautiful and they're fairly inexpensive at the time. So Gary had kind of amassed a hoard of these things. And then Jeff Perrin gave him about 300 figures that he had amassed. And Gary pretty soon had a massive army. He play tested chainmail, and as the guys started to get bored, he decided to add a troll, which he made from a Viking figure that he just painted green. And then took the horn off the Viking's helmet and glued it to the end of the guy's nose, so it would look more like a Paul Anderson troll whose nose hung down to his knees.
I'm sorry, who Anderson?
Paul.
Thank you. Thank
Not
you.
Paul
Please continue.
Like me. Not Paul
Not
like me.
Paul like you.
Anderson.
Paul.
Anyways, so at that time, and then Gary decided to add more and more fantasy elements. He had seen a Battle of the Five Armies demo put on by a game night put on by Leonard Patt, which had some of the basic chainmail rules like fireballs and lightning bolts and wizards and heroes. He added that to the chainmail game at that time and added a whole fantasy section and started adding all of his stuff in. But at the time, there was no fantasy figures at all. And so when the D&D game was, when chainmail was being played and he wanted to come up with fantastic creatures, he'd have to go down to the dime store and find something and imagine what it was. So a Stegosaurus becomes the first red dragon. A Brontosaurus, two Brontosauruses become the first two-headed dragon. and eventually Gary finds the pack of Hong Kong plastic figures, and that becomes the Rust Monster, the Owl Bear, the Umber Hulk, the Boule, all of those things. And then for ogres, he uses a Mark's Fort Apache Indian set. And one by one, he starts adding all of these fantasy miniatures because there were no fantasy figures in 1971. So by 1974, Gary has this whole panoply of figures that he has gotten from the dime store, and he's made them into fantastical creatures. And they begin to define the way creatures are described in the game. When Dave Sutherland is writing the Monster Manual in 1977, he says, Gary, what do you want ogres to look like? And Gary literally went down to the basement and grabbed one of the Fort Apache Indian ogres he had made and held it to him. What do you want giants to look like? And he gave him the Elastigirl figure he had mocked up to look like a storm giant. What do you want? Well, here's a rust monster. It looks like this little figure. And this is what dragons are supposed to look like. And Gary basically defined the game from those initial fantasy figures that he kit bashed from toys. So when D&D actually starts to get to the point of having so many different monsters and stuff, Gary just couldn't keep up. And so they didn't really use miniatures at all at the beginning, but Gary pushed Jack Scrooby to make miniatures for chainmail, and eventually he pushed Duke Seafried of Heritage Ministers to start making more and more fantasy figures. And eventually that market found a niche, but TSR really didn't make stuff, and Gary didn't use miniatures. He had a few miniatures he'd use occasionally, but it just wasn't the central focus, which is interesting because all the fantasy was born from that very visual, interesting Elastigirl figures all painted, all these different monsters kit bashed from things from the dime store. And there was a huge mythology or zoology or cryptozoology of creatures for that game. But as D&D got more and more expansive, it just started to outstrip the ability to create, to find and make new creatures. So eventually he turns to the miniature casting industry, and they start creating from the descriptions in the books. And so it's this weird sort of self-referential change where it's finding creatures to represent fantasy and creating a whole bunch of fantasy monsters, but then needing to create miniatures to match all of the range of those fantasy monsters. And so yeah, so I would say that miniatures did play a role, mainly for big battles and stuff like that. Like Sturmgeschützen Sorcery is a great example. That was using Roko mini tanks and Airfix HO scaled figures that they used for World War II war games. And then Gary threw in some Sheriff of Nottingham figures from basically the Robin Hood series of figures, the same scale, also made by Airfix, and then threw in a bunch of his sort of plastic monsters from the chainmail days and had a big battle and wrote it up in the strategic review. And it caught on like wildfire. But that's sort of the whole sort of, there is no figures for these. What could we use? Well, we'll use these. For example, Gary, tongue-in-cheek, names the servants of the wizard the servants of the gatherer. Well, who's the gatherer in Robin Hood? It's the Sheriff of Nottingham. And the gatherer's castle is the Sheriff of Nottingham's castle, modeled from Airfix. So you have a lot of this self-referential stuff because Gary loved the spectacle of miniature gaming, but he realized that D&D was so imaginative and so expansive, it was outstripping the ability to use any miniatures at all because there just wasn't anything. And he couldn't kit bash things fast enough. So that's when he starts pushing the professional people, and the professional people see, there's an opportunity here to create whole lines of miniatures to represent the hundreds of creatures in the game.
Wow, that
please turn to the next chapter.
Turn tape over. But no,
Bill, you were in those religion classes as well, weren't you?
I'm a Gen X kid. The bell and howl, thing that you turn, and
I always loved the chapter change.
Yeah.
And then there was a horrible grinding sound as it changed to the next chapter.
Yes. Savo says, you can't make a miniature for crippling self-doubt. Joke's on you, Savo. All my unpainted miniatures represent crippling self-doubt. So
yeah, the entire collection of unpainted miniatures is crippling self-doubt.
There you go. It's very meta. And now this is something that Paul has told us before, but why does that red dragon on the cover of the monster manual look so weird, Paul?
Well, this is why it looks so weird. Because there were no dragon figures. So Gary had a set of Mark's figures, prehistoric animals, they were called. And in this set of prehistoric animals was a Stegosaurus. And the Stegosaurus had short elephantine legs, and it had fins going down its back, and it had a couple spikes sticking out of its tail. Well, Gary basically cut the spikes off of the tail and then glued them to either side of the head of the Stegosaurus. And then he kind of took some wire and inserted it into the elephant-like feet of the Stegosaurus to make claws. And he used some auto body putty to kind of extend those. He used some auto body putty to make the Stegosaurus's head bigger, because if you ever seen a Stegosaurus, it comes down to their little tiny head. They have this big, huge body comes out of this little tiny head. So Gary made the head bigger and fatter, and then stuck those longhorn horns on either side of it. And then he took a Fruit Loop cereal box and cut the wings, bat-like wings, and glued those to either side and painted them. Painted the whole thing red to be like Smog, the red dragon, and then turned it over and sprinkled a little glitter on the bottom so it looked like the jewels embedded in Smog's belly. And that became the first red dragon of chainmail, and it would define red dragons for a while. But when it came time to do the artwork on the monster manual, Dave Sutherland always said he hated the cover because Gary made him follow his instructions to a T and made him use the chainmail models for some of the monsters on there. And so that stubby little thick-bodied, longhorn-headed, bat-winged dragon on the front cover, that is what Gary's Stegosaurus chainmail red dragon looked like. And when Dave Sutherland said, "How do you want this to look?" Gary gave him that model, and he probably went, "Dang." But then look at the red dragon that Sutherland drew on the interior. It has a long, snaky neck and a spade-like head, and it doesn't look anything like a dragon on the front cover. It doesn't have two longhorn horns coming out of its head for sure. So that's where the red dragon came from.
It's this one right here. I have a miniature of Sutherland's red dragon.
Nice.
So, but all right. I have heard this story, and if I heard it from you, then I know it's true. But I have heard this story that Dave Sutherland, when they were giving out copies of the Monster Manual when it first came out, they opened up the case lot, and somebody gave Dave's his, and he was like, and threw it in the trash. But somebody rescued it and made sure he kept it. Have you heard that story, or is that true? Or
well, there's another story that's similar to that might be the story, but one day in 1992, the building manager decided to move all of the TSR art out of the archive into a big art archive, into a big pile in the middle of the art room. So he could put all the modular furniture that they weren't using into the art storage room. And then he was ordered to throw away all the art. And so Roger Ropp called Dave and said, "Dave, you got to get down here. They're going to throw away all your art. There's a huge pile and they're going to throw it away." So Dave comes down, he looks at the pile, and he told me this pile was about, 6 foot in diameter and about 4 foot tall. Now think, how many pieces of art could you get into a pile like that? Thousands of pieces of art.
yeah.
And Dave said, "I pulled out the Monster Manual cover and I threw it back onto the pile because I always hated that because Gary was so particular how everything was done." And then the only 2 pieces of art he saved, Dungeon Master's Guide cover.
That's the actual painting, boys and girls.
And Paladin in Hell, which I also have.
Which you also have. You need to put that on the wall so we can all see it, Paul, when you're on the show.
I did a remodel of my home, and I haven't gotten my backdrop put back together yet.
Get with it, Paul.
I know,
get with it.
Get it together.
Yeah, and you know
about that. Think about how prolific Dave was, how much art he produced.
I don't
only
want
pieces of art he pulled out were those 2 pieces.
I don't want to think about that. That hurts my stomach and my heart.
But I did see this summer when I went out on that trip I was telling you about, I saw a guy and he has an amazing collection, and his biggest piece of art is the 1977 Monster Manual painting, which he bought on eBay for $4,000. What?
That is
terrible.
That is an absolute steal, dude. That is insane.
It was indeed a steal. When it came up for sale, I had just bought this thing for a lot of money, and I didn't have any money. So when the Monster Manual came up, I just went, "Oh!" And I saw it go for $4,000, and I was like, dagger to the heart, dagger to the heart.
So when you were out there, did you make him an offer?
No, this guy wouldn't sell that thing for the world. Bill, you know the scene where what's his name? It's not JB. Is JB is the genetic engineer in Blade Runner? Whatever the
JF Sebastian.
JF Sebastian, right?
Yes.
So JF comes to Tyrell Corporation and he does the buzzer and he talks to the guy and then he sends the elevator down to get him, right? I went to see this guy and he lived in a high rise like that. And I went up to his room and he has an entire condominium filled with amazing collectibles. The first thing I saw, Bill, plexiglass case right inside the front door, Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford's entire outfit from the first movie. Hat, jacket, whip. Then I went around the corner and Darth Vader's helmet and mask from the first movie. Right there. I went to another room. The lawgivers from Planet of the Apes, those big giant granite statues, right there. The lobby card art from Blade Runner. The lobby card art from Blade Runner. The cover art for the Dark Knight graphic novel. Harrison Ford's service weapon, Deckard's service weapon in Blade Runner. I mean, this was just amazing. It was just stunning. And so to see the Monster Manual cover there in context, I was like, well, that's pretty great. But
that is, wow,
you know,
that is pretty great. And you're right. I mean, he will not part with that.
And you know what? He is a guy who grew up playing D&D as a kid. He'd go swimming at the Y. He'd go down to the Complete Strategist in New York City and get together with his buddies, and they'd play D&D at the Complete Strategist. So
there you go, man.
He deserves it, man.
Absolutely.
I'm happy that he has it because he is a true fan.
I know. I get it. I absolutely get it. I mean, I've got my OD&D books, Dungeon Master's Guide, a few other odds and ends with Gary's and other signatures on it, from my cold dead hands, you know.
Indeed.
But there was one thing to kind of jump back to talk about Dave's art. Now, I mean, you did stuff with Gary. I did things with Gary. Lots of people have done work with Gary. I'm not trying to you know, piss for distance and accuracy contest with you here, but I have told this story before, but the 400 goblins in the room was a perfect example of it. Like, Gary would, generally speaking, on Teeth at the Barkesh Nor, let me do whatever I wanted to do to spice things up, as long as I was within his bounds. He let me put in the Lost Crypt, which Frog God Games published for me. He let me scatter the teeth around rather than having them all being held by the slimy horror. I beefed up some things, you know, I got a little more descriptive on others, but I hit that goddamn room with 400 goblins and a goblin king. And I was like, okay, you want a fortress here? We can do a whole dungeon. No, don't change it. One room, 400 goblins, a goblin king.
That's like my 100 werewolves surrounding the tower.
Yeah, exactly.
100 goblins, that'll be no problem.
And that's the Loyal Order of the Water Buffaloes goblin meeting, by the way. That is what's going on there. So Alan Canning, again with a question, asks, was Greyhawk's pantheon of demigods based on any particular myths from history? I know Saint Cuthbert was an actual saint, but beyond that,
no, none of it was. It all came from popular culture stuff, like I think like the hymn of Pelor came from the Fire Sign Theater recordings. Oh, blinding light, oh, light that blinds. And, you know, all sorts of other funny little bits from radio and TV and books and novels and all that stuff. But a lot of the demigods in particular are modeled after people who were very important in Gary's life.
Yeah,
Zagig,
Merlin, Don Kay.
Well, yeah, Zagig, of course, is Gary, right? He's the zany creator of the dungeon. It's a self-referential, he's the mad wizard who created this dungeon for people to adventure in. And he's literally it. It is it. He's the embodiment of Greyhawk Castle and the crazy guy who built it. So that's Zagig, that's Gary. Then you, of course, have Merlin, as you mentioned. In the original campaign, Bill, his name was Merlin because it's Don Kay. He was like, well, let's see, what wizards do I know? Well, Merlin. That's probably the only wizard name he knew. So it was Merlin. But Gary, when he published it, was like, oh, you know, you better, rub off the serial numbers, file off the serial numbers on this guy and make it Merlin. So you see that Merlin is a mixture of Westerns, which Gary loved, mechanics, and magic and sleight of hand, and also a paladin, a very stand-up good guy who wasn't afraid of anything. So he embodies his best friend, Don Kay.
Yeah,
And then there's Heward, and Heward's mystical organ. Gary's favorite uncle, who was gay, was I think when he was 7 years old, he took apart his grandfather's watch, his grandfather's Swiss watch, took it apart and put it back together again, and it worked perfectly. This guy was a mechanical genius, and he repaired pipe organs. And Gary was his assistant for a while. So Heward, the god, is based, and he's a hero deity. He's based on Gary's cousin Hugh, as they call him. And yeah, Gary just loved him. And so Heward's mystical organ it comes from his cousin, who Gary just really respected and loved. Then let's see, who else is there? Let me give you another one. I don't know.
Tom Keoghtam.
Oh yes, Keoghtam. Keoghtam, of course, is after his friend Tom Keogh, who committed suicide in about 1969 or so. It was very hard on Gary. Tom Keogh was Gary's lifelong best friend and would have been his friend forever had he not killed himself. And yeah, it was a very sad thing. But Tom Keogh and Gary, you know the drawing of the werewolf in the original D&D books?
Yes.
The big kind of mask, old school Hollywood Wolfman. That was drawn by Tom Keogh because he was an artist. His father was a graphic designer and would give his son pencils, paper, all kinds of art to draw with, all things to supplies to draw with. And he was also very good at acting. And so there's a story where Tom and Gary get into a graveyard, and Tom has done his hair and done his face up to look like a werewolf using stage makeup, has taken a pair of black leather gloves and turned them inside out with fur collars around them, and puts on a big beaver fur coat, you know, that you see in the old football movies from the 30s, and dressed up as a werewolf, and then hid behind a tombstone in Lake Geneva. And as a waitress was walking down Dodge Street past Gary's house and past the graveyard to go home, Tom slowly put his hands above the gravestone and went, and then suddenly popped out from behind the gravestone as a full-on wolf, while Gary sat behind a tree a short distance away, just laughing his ass off. He said she got the hell off of Dodge. And so that's where Keoghtam's comes from. And so there you see an immediate influence. A really good one, Jorami, right? Jorami is the goddess of volcanoes and fire and anger and jealousy. Mary Jo, his first one.
Yeah. Jorami, Mary Jo. Yeah.
So that's the stories just go on and on and on. But you know, that's where all those gods come from. Is there some experience in Gary's life where he filters them down, mixes them up with popular culture, throws them into the D&D black box, and they come out sounding like really cool heroes to us, but they're just part of Gary's life. They're a distillation of Gary's life, just like Grimag and Rano Stavel. That's what was going on in Gary's life at the time. He was mad at those two guys. And so it comes out that they're traitors in the game, because that's how Gary felt about them. And so if you're looking for something in the game, you just have to understand what Gary's gimmick is. You know, he wrote books and fiction, and he did a couple things with names like anagrams, names backwards, different phonetic spellings. One thing he would do is he would write the alphabet, Bill, and then as he went through the story, when he got to A, he would say Abergath. When he got to B, he'd say Barthek. And then he'd get to C, and he'd say, you know, Cernak. And, you know, he would just go through and he would make these names up as he wrote by just picking a letter out of the alphabet and forcing his mind to make a name starting with that letter. And so that's where the gods come from. Not so much mythological or story, but they do come from a little bit of that, but it's mainly just from Gary's imagination, distillation of his life.
Sure. And that wasn't an actually moment. It's just this is a good one too, though. Pop lollies and belly bones.
Ah, yes. There's a lot from that. So,
and I mean the jokes he would make with that, like he might take an like first name that meant like thin and miserly and surname that meant fat and generous, and then stick them together. You know, so Faffle means stutter, and Dwemercrafter means magic maker. So a stuttering magic maker for the magic user. Yeah. Yeah.
And
the eye biter.
Frush, which means to be beaten, and Suggle, which is from suggulated, which means to be bruised. So battered and bruised, battered and bruised for the name of a fighter.
Yes.
Yeah, those are great. Great. But
good
you know,
stuff.
Gary didn't take himself too seriously. He threw everything that amused him and entertained him and he thought was funny and put it into the game, because it was just as fun for him to spring those names and those characters and those figures in the game on people, you know, as it was fun for the players to play them. So,
yeah. And, you know, I have to, you talk about taking things seriously, and I got to share this story. Ed and Lorraine Warren. What is it about women named Lorraine who ever come near D&D? It's just bad. I don't know. I'm sure there's lots of fine ladies named Lorraine who played D&D and enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. So, I had a buddy of mine was traveling through the part of the country where Ed and Lorraine Warren had their little sideshow attraction, their little museum of the paranormal. And he said, this was like 8 or 10 years ago. I'm not talking about the
really not that long ago. Wow,
not that long ago. This he went through, and I think she was still alive, but you know, she would conduct tours of the place, and she would always, you know, very frail, serious, gravely serious tone. We have removed all of these items for, you know, they're cursed. We have bounds the evil forces in. Don't touch any of them. These. So he said, I'm walking through, and Bill, hand to God, in a glass case with a little card that said occult book found at location of some terrible crime, was a Jeff Easley cover player's handbook. He said, never have I been so tempted to just reach over, just ignore a do not touch and pick something up and start leafing through it. He said, I just wanted to page through it and go, oh yeah, you can tell this is like a 9th plus because they don't have the 5th level cleric name. That's just blotted out. You know, that's supposed to be prefect.
You know what the curse is, though? You will start spending all of your money buying more books and miniatures, which you'll
yes. Yes. That,
see, there is a curse.
that demon got a hold of me in 1980, and I thought that I had exorcised it from me completely. And then I ran into you on the internet in 1996 or 7, and you sold me a stack of AD&D again, and here I am.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But yeah, the the satanic panic. So I've got to ask you this question, since it's just moved into the Paul and Bill bullshitting for everyone's entertainment at this point. But if you
let's start doing every minute beyond 2 hours, we should get $1 from donors for the show.
Absolutely, you people
at least to cover our medical expenses.
Come on,
for larynx surgery.
Okay, so hang on. Is it here? All right. Of all of the stuff you've got, Paul, of all of the D&D rarities, ancillary things, lunch boxes, action figures, you know,
sliding puzzle toys,
sliding puzzle pieces,
Warduke Halloween mask,
Warduke Halloween mask. Do you have a copy of this piece of shit? Rona Jaffe's Mazes and Monsters.
I indeed do, for research purposes.
Exactly. I have been intending, I'm probably over the holiday, and you know what the hell of it is? She's not an unattractive woman, right?
Yeah.
I had always pictured, like, okay, she's some crone, she's some ugly housefrau who you know looks like the lady who wants to audit. Looks like the lady that wants to audit the PTA concert. No, I'd have dated her anyway. Yeah, so I've been meaning to do a long form video on this nonsense book. So I bought a hardback copy for the princely sum of like $6 shipped off of eBay.
Totally worth it.
You know what, Paul? You know, I have around here, it's on a shelf over there. I have, and of course I have the deluxe version, the Art and Arcana. And I told people when I got it and I looked through it, I said, look, this is awesome, because even if you don't get the folio version, just the regular, put it on my bookshelf, look at it, you know, when I'm in the living room on a Sunday afternoon bored, there's dungeon maps in there. Mm-hmm. It has some ancillary value as a gaming product. Mm-hmm. This has graph paper on the front. the design of the front cover of Mazes and Monsters is graph paper. You can map on this. All right. Quality. If it has no other value, you can map on it. So going into it, it's got points in its favor.
But the AD&D official AD&D coloring handbook has it beat hands down.
Yes, that thing is actually a playable adventure. I had the dungeon towel. The dungeon towel.
That's it. That's what I'm going to run for the guac.
The dungeon towel?
I'm going to run. No, I'm going to run the official AD&D coloring album adventure for it.
I'm looking forward to it. I am there for that. Thank you so much for deciding to do that. You are quite welcome. But yeah, the AD&D beach towel, man. That thing. It was a map. It had encounters on it.
Yep.
I mean,
gave me the idea for a lich riding a purple worm.
There you go. There you go.
If I ever pulled that on my players, they would just fold up their bags, pack up their backpacks, and walk out.
You mean you couldn't? Wait.
Or they would just say, "I disbelieve."
Is it? Yeah. No, I think you should get the beach towel out and just and set the miniatures for those monsters in the locations. Be like Goblin Treasure Chest, Beholder, Red Dragon, Remoraz.
There's a good picture of it online. I bet I could just take that thing and print it off at Kinko's.
There you go.
I don't think there are Kinko's anymore, though.
It's FedEx office.
I know.
Something or the other. I don't know.
And they close at 6 p.m. I used to go into Kinko's in graduate school at 1 a.m. and be there till 3 a.m.
Yeah, no, that was the best
joke thing with the people who were stuck there working at night.
Yep. We had a Kinko's up the street from us, and I used to go in and get stuff copied and notarized and everything else like that. And while I was waiting for things to print, I would BS with a guy because I'm getting really deep into the weeds here, probably even maybe outside of your pay grade, not necessarily above, but we talk about Silicon Graphics because all of the central computers in those locations were high-end workstations, SGIs. But moving right along. So I feel like we've kind of emptied the cereal box at this point, Paul. Shall we?
No. There's another box.
There's another box. Woohoo!
But we won't. We'll get into the other box the next show. So.
Absolutely, the next show, the post Dragon Days, when we do the wrap up, when you tell us about how awesome it was, and you share pictures, which is really only a few weeks away. It's just
not a few weeks, a few days away.
a few days away.
For Dragon Days, maybe a few weeks away for the show, but
Alan asks another question here. He's getting his money's worth tonight. Did Gary run Tomb of Horrors at cons to frighten players?
No. Gary's whole design philosophy was to create a series of gambits for players. And there was just your average encounters, but there were always gambits, like a slot machine where you had to insert a magic item, pull the lever, and maybe get a better magic item, or maybe get lemons. But no, never failed. The players always pulled the lever and gave up some minor magic item, hoping they'd get a better one. And the slot machine would just eat tons of magic items as a result. So that's an example of a gambit that Gary puts in there. And there's lots of gambits in Greyhawk Castle, but they're spread out. I think that in the original dungeon distribution, sort of the dungeon design, where 1 in 6 is going to be a monster, 2 in 6 will be a monster and treasure, or 1 in 6 will be monster treasure, 2 in 6 will just be a monster, and so on it. But then there were specials where the room would have something like a talking fountain, or a magic mirror, or it would have something special in it. And so those are tricks or specials or gimmicks. And those are the special parts of the dungeon. And Gary loved to create those. So if your favorite part is creating these sort of, and a lot of people call them got you things, but literally most of the got you things are things you could just walk by and not do anything. But Gary knew that players were playing a game, and just like the slot machine, they could not pass it up. They had to touch the machine. They had to touch whatever, and then their character would die, and they would go, well, that's not fair. But there's a whole set of trees in a really dangerous area of the base of the dungeon, and the trees have gems growing off of the branches. So the player's like, oh, we got to get down to the gem tree orchard. We got to get down there. And Gary is just playing on their greed. Teeth of Barkashnor. Desert of Gold Dust, Bill. Is there a better gimmick than that?
It is an awesome gimmick. I love that gimmick.
Well, no, I don't mean gimmick. I meant gambit.
Yes, gambit.
A gambit is something you choose to enter into, like a game of 3-card Monte. That guy's going to beat you, but you want to try to at least win a game or a couple games, or think maybe you can beat even him, even though he's a pro. That's the draw of a gambit. That's when Gary said, when you play at blackjack, you want the blackjack player to give you a good game because that adds to the thrill. If he just let you win every game, it would be dull. And so the thought of losing something, the thought of that risk, the gambit you choose to enter into, that is the entire Tomb of Horrors. The Tomb of Horrors is all about players making bad decisions because they're having difficulty solving, where to go next. And so you have players going, oh, I don't care. I lay on the altar. Well, it blows up and kills the entire party. Congratulations. So that is the purpose of a gambit. And where did Gary get gambits from? Well, it comes from folklore. Why would you go after the leprechaun's pot? Nobody survives it when you get the leprechaun's gold. It always ends up bad. You never get the wish. It always ends up it's the constant in mythology, in folk tales, and anything you do in there, it goes all the way back to Oedipus Rex. You're going to sleep with your mother and murder your father. Well, then I'm going to move all the way over here, and guess what? The court you moved into is the new court of your mother and father, and you just slept with your mother and killed your father. Congratulations. Yeah. And so that's what the Tomb of Horror is. That is Gary pulling out all the stops on those gambits that don't test character levels. It tests the player's experience and wisdom. And that's why gambits are such a great part of the original castle. And that's why Tomb of Horrors is just eternally great. It's just because it's got all those gambits, and Gary knew that the chaff would be soon separated from the wheat if he took that to conventions and people just played through it.
I make this analogy about the Tomb of Horrors, and I think it's an appropriate one because back in the 90s, Dark Horse Comics used to publish a line of alternate stories. Basically, they took the Aliens movie and wrote their own sequel to it. Is the Aliens comics. And there's a point at which Earth is overrun with aliens, and a crazy United States Colonial Marines general sets up basically a proving ground on another planet, and learns how to he thinks he's training aliens, and he's training Marines to survive aliens, and he's actually crazy. He's experimenting on people, what mad scientists get up to in the Aliens movies.
Mad Marines.
So 3 or 4 Marines decide to go to a remote communication site elsewhere on the planet and try and beam a message anywhere to get a hold of somebody sane and let him know that this guy has gone Colonel Kurtz on everyone. So, but of course the Marine general knows about this, and he's watching via remote camera as these guys go into this base, which of course is an alien hive. And they do what the Marines do in Aliens. They start panic firing, and then they get picked off one by one. And the general is watching on the monitor, and he's just like, this is ridiculous. 8 armed men keeping their cool should be able to walk into that place and turn around and walk back out without taking any losses. These Marines are better off dead anyway. They've learned nothing. I've tried to train them. Tomb of Horrors is kind of like that. 8 experienced players with 7th or 8th level characters keeping their heads can walk into the Tomb of Horrors and walk out. 10 panicky players at a convention. I can give each of them 2 12th level characters for a 4-hour session, and 2 hours in, make it to dinner.
Well,
because
and also it has a little bit to do with frustration, and that patience and problem solving. So not just panicky, but more of getting frustrated that they can't beat the system. And then they say, fine, I just lay on the altar.
Yeah.
It explodes.
I'll just, you know what? I'll grab that gem off the floor and make a wish on it.
It's so great. And it's just a series of one gambit after the other. It's just so great.
Yeah. Speaking of gaming, Paul,
Hey, I thought we were done with the cereal box. We're in the next cereal box. I love it.
You know what? You know how sometimes when you pull the envelope out and there's some floating around in the box
that's right.
itself?
Bonus
That's
cereal. It's
bonus
honeycomb.
cereal.
There's honeycombs at the bottom of this box.
There you go. Well, that's over. But Paul, I think it's time for a joust.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, here comes joust.
Okay, let's see.
I have picked my aim point. I have picked my defensive position. I'm ready.
Okay. Hang on a second. I have picked my defensive position. I have picked my aim point.
Ready?
Ready.
Joust!
Joust!
Okay. Sir Bill, I'll let you go first. Aim point.
My aim point is SC.
And I have chosen lean left. What's the result?
Break Lance.
Oh, the crowd goes wild. They love free toothpicks.
Free toothpick day at the list. Woohoo!
Okay, Bill. I have chosen center pale. What did you choose?
Center pale. I chose lean left. Glances off.
Oh, just 1 point. 1-2. You lead, sir. However, on this ride, Bill, you're restricted to position 4 or 6 because you broke your lance on the last ride.
4 or 6. Okay.
Fish in a barrel, man. Fish in a barrel.
All righty, Paul. I am ready. I have chosen my defensive position. I have chosen my aiming point.
Okay, I'm ready.
Joust!
Yay!
Right. What is your aim point?
My aim point is center pale again. No surprise.
Center pale, broken lance because I chose steady seat.
Nice. So, city, yep, city. Okay, so your aim point.
My aim point was helm.
Nice. I unfortunately had chosen lower helm. I had chosen, shield low. So what is shield low? That is, I think that's a miss. Shield low. Yeah. I chose shield low. So that's an M. So what is it? 4-1? I'm doing terrible.
Well, this is, you have.
Oh, wait, no, wait. It's 2 to what? Because what did I get on my ride? I broke my lance, right?
You broke your lance, yes.
So that's 2. So it's 3-2. I'm ahead by 1 point.
All right, this one is
this is for this ride. You can do whatever defensive position allowed, but I this time am stuck on 4 and 6.
All righty.
I'm ahead by a measly 1 point. All right, let me think about this here. Okay. I'm ready with my defensive position and my aim point. Okay, I'm ready.
All righty, sir.
Oh, wait. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Ready. Okay.
I am ready.
All right. Aim point.
My aim point is center pale.
And I chose shield low. I think that hurts me. Oh!
unhorsed
It
and
unhorses me and
injured.
injures me. Ouch. That hurt. Okay, so that's
Ooh.
5 points. You don't get any points for hurting the opponent. That's actually considered bad form. So you've got
Okay.
8. I have chosen to aim, Bill, at Fess Pale. What did you choose?
Fess Pale. I chose lean right.
And the result is?
Glances off.
Ah! Sir Bill is the winner! Yay!
I have restored
Bill.
honor to the Sylvie family name.
It always had honor. It just has less splinters today.
Exactly. Paul, man, it has been an absolute gas. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight, brother.
Okay, I'm going to make my last appeal, Bill.
Okay.
Please, people. I'm begging you. Everybody you know, go out to the Kickstarter. I don't care if you bid $5 or pledge $5. This table will only happen if gamers all around the world decide that they want to make something really cool, really special, and say thank you to Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson for giving us this awesome gift, which has given us so much joy. $5, $10, whatever it is. Just come together, put something in there, and make it look like gamers want to say thank you. They want to make a community thing for everybody. And this will be an awesome place for us to gather. So that's my appeal.
Well, there you go, guys. And I'm gonna put this up on screen. The link is up there, so you guys can get one more glance at that. When does this launch, Paul? When does this take off?
Well, I am not launching it without thought. It is going to launch on October 1st, next Wednesday. October 1st is the day when Gary Gygax decided to take a chance, found his company, TSR, Tactical Studies Rules, so they could publish a game that no other publishing company believed in, but Gary did. And
are you kidding me?
That's why we're doing October 1st.
Okay, so I've told you about this, and you know, the audience doesn't know. Well, the audience knows I'm announcing something on October 1st. That's very serendipitous. That's very serendipitous. I chose October 1st just because, but that is very serendipitous. So that's very cool, guys. Check it out. Throw in $5. Throw in $10. Throw in whatever you can spare.
$250 gets you a paver.
There you go. Write your name in the pages of history, quite literally, in some future time and space. I mean, look, we can't go out into Mesopotamia or Persia or India, wherever you think it was invented, and unearth a plinth that says John the Persian it created chess. Okay, we can't go dig up the remains of some brothel in Germany that says poker was invented here. We can't. I mean, we're kind of hazy on who created a lot of modern games that we know about. And if it wasn't for Warren Robinette having the guts to stand up to Atari, we wouldn't even know who created video games.
Yeah.
So this, in 5,000 years, archaeologists are going to be going, Dungeons and Dragons created by this guy, and they'll still be arguing about whether 786 or 787th edition is the best way to play. Everybody knows it's 786. Anyhow, Paul, thank you for being here. You are gonna come back when Dragon Days is over, and you're going to tell us how it went. And I don't mean weeks after Dragon's Day. I mean after you've had a chance to breathe and relax, and your charming, lovely wife will let you sit and be an idiot in front of the computer for a few hours. again.
I
Paul
shall
says he's
come
still
back victorious or on my shield.
there you go. There you go. So help yourself to some schnapps and baklava in the green room while I put these kids to bed, Paul. Guys, Paul Stormberg, everyone. My apologies to Blues Traveler. I'm sorry we ran out of time for you guys tonight. We'll try and get you in on the next show. So I will return tomorrow night. We will return. It'll be me. It'll be Doomsword. It'll be Kanik. It'll be Yang. Hopefully Tim will be here. He's quite literally off being a rocket scientist. So, if he's still getting adjusted to that, well, we'll keep his character warm with the glow of gamma radiation. But until then, everyone, whether you think that they originated from radiation after the Great Cataclysmic War, or whether you think they were just thought up with Gary's greatness, remember, there's always time for owl bears. Peace. Good night. God bless.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.